look to the left, and he kind of telegraphed it all the way. When the ball was tipped, Foreman's in the right spot.
Sponsored by Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Tavern 180, Vinny Kreekak of State Farm Insurance, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical.
Here's Fuente dropping back, fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Blackshirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Alrighty, welcome in. It is the Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Jay will be here momentarily. Nick Sainert, Austin Norman kicking things off after Nebraska falls on the road at number 4, Ohio State, 21-17. Dylan Raiola throws an interception to end the game on the last offensive possession for the Huskers. His day ends 21 of 32 through the air, 152 passing yards, no touchdowns, 1 INT. Nebraska found the end zone just one time on the day from Dante Dowdell. He had 14 carries for 60 yards and a score. Dylan Raiola, 31 yards. That obviously includes sacks. Emmett Johnson with 8 carries, 30 yards as well. We want to hear from you guys, the entire show, 402-464-5685. The Honda of Lincoln hotline and the Starter Heyman text line are open for you guys the entire post-game show. Jay and I will be here for about an hour and a half or so, probably until 4 o'clock. Well, then Austin will take you through the rest of your afternoon. Nebraska once again falls 21-17 to the Ohio State Buckeyes. A lot of emotions, I know, on this one. There's a lot of things that we're certainly going to get into. A lot of things that we can pick each other's brains on because Nebraska was handed a gift quite often, and it was essentially Christmas every couple of minutes of game time, pretty much every single time Ohio State got the ball or Nebraska was even on offense at times. Nebraska was given opportunity after opportunity and ultimately never felt like their offense really got into a rhythm. There was that moment in the third quarter where they dominated it, but defense really stepped up, right? Holding Ohio State, the strong offense that they have, obviously led by Chip Kelly at offensive coordinator, to 21 points at home. Is not something maybe you're proud of, but certainly could have been worse, especially with considering the positions that at times Nebraska's offense put Nebraska's defense in there. With that all being said, let's bring in Austin Norman. Austin, initial thoughts on this one?
I'm going to sound like a broken record for most of the last 3 years, Nick.
Yeah.
Another one-score loss. This one, I'm having a hard time digesting this one because I was telling myself all week, let's just see progress. Let's just get the team back on the horse.
Yeah.
Let's see if and how they're able to respond. And I had talked myself into, let's just see competitive. Let's just see fire. Mm-hmm. But that's where I think this program frustrates so many people because you have the out of nowhere, seemingly blowout loss at Indiana. And then I think people hoped Nebraska would get off the mat. I think Nebraska exceeded a lot of expectations today and only falling by 4 at the Horseshoe. But for everyone that said, let's just take a close loss, let's just get back on the horse, I was in or at least around that camp. It doesn't make it sting any less right now. Because Nebraska found a way to take the lead in the fourth quarter. Yeah, you still had, 11 and a half, 12 minutes of game time left to play. It absolutely wasn't over at that point. Only 17 points. You will not win many games. Nebraska still hasn't allowed more than 14 points to a Power 5 team in a win under Matt Rule and Tony White and Marcus Satterfield. So 17 points very clearly isn't enough. And I'm going to catch grief for this, but I think I was proven right with 2 of my takes over the last year and a half or 2 today. Nebraska dominates time of possession. They hold the ball for 35 minutes. They run 19 more plays than Ohio State, but settling for 3 field goals because of poorly timed penalties, poor execution inside the 25-yard line. Credit John Holt, right? He did his job. That was a positive sign. So you're not mad at it. Field goals don't win games. Nebraska scores a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's a different ballgame that we're talking about. And then, what was the other one? So time of possession was there. Oh yeah. But with that, right. You gotta punch it in.
Yeah.
You got to punch it in. And then,
especially after a turnover.
Oh my gosh. You get the ball down to the 7-yard line.
Yep.
Will Howard gives you a gift. He misfires. Malcolm Hartzog comes off of one of the top 5 receivers in the country. Freshman Jeremiah Smith makes a good play on a bad throw from Will Howard. That's the defense stepping up. In the first half, the defense stepped up right after the terrible opening sequence by the special teams and Dowdell dropping the handoff and Nebraska not moving. Defense steps up there. But Nick, I said it at the end of last year, and it does bear repeating today. After Nebraska scored the touchdown to take the lead, the defense needed to step up and get off the field.
Yeah.
We know it's a good offense from Ohio State, but you had it stuck in the mud. You had it stuck in neutral. This is why I cannot get on board with Nebraska being a great defense. A great defense keeps Ohio State off the board, or at least, holds them to a field goal there. Yeah. But Ohio State, you can credit them. That's a veteran group with playmakers that they went to, a veteran play caller in Chip Kelly. So absolutely credit Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
The offense needs to be better, but the defense was excellent, darn near elite all day.
Yeah.
Except for the most important drive of the game.
I mean, you're right. I think so. So that drive that obviously Nebraska, they score on the 1-yard run by Dante Dowdell that actually was initially a call to touchdown overturned on the pass to Isaiah Nair. And then Dante Dowdell scores on the very next play. And then they got the 2-point conversion too. Like you felt like, okay, Nebraska's churning, right? Like they're doing okay. 17-14, they led with, I believe it was 10 minutes and change on the game clock in the fourth quarter. Then they allow, they kick off for a touchback. They immediately allow a 37-yard pass completion from Will Howard to Carnell Tate. Mm-hmm. And it was caught at the 43-yard line. And then they kind of just ran it down your throats. It wasn't necessarily for a whole lot of yards, but just the physical pounding runs started to get to Nebraska. And you saw that on that drive. Quinshon Judkins started getting into a little bit of a rhythm. We saw what he was, obviously highly touted coming into this game, and rightfully so. The trusty the trusty play into the hands of Emeka Ibuka on 4th down and 1 got him the first down. And then it was, the 7-yard carry by Judkins, a 10-yard carry by Will Howard. The scramble game started to hurt Nebraska just as much as it helped Nebraska offensively in the first half with Dylan Raiola. And then Quinshon Judkins just got matched up with Mekhi Bayer, I believe it was, who's a linebacker, and he was going to be able to get some space and some room to work with every single time, and he ends up scoring a touchdown from 9 yards out on the pass play. So even at that point, though, Nebraska gets the ball back, 6:04 to go. And we're going to talk a lot about play calling today. We're going to talk a lot about screen. We've gotten so many. I mean, I would not be remiss. I think here's the deal. I would not be surprised to say 30 comments on our video stream about the screen plays specifically. And I think I would say this just about Nebraska's coaching staff in general. And if you want to directly correlate this to Marcus Satterfield, you can. I did so on Twitter, so I'm not shying away from anything. But we heard Matt Rule early in the week on Monday talk about Nebraska's perimeter blocking as a deficiency. They talked about it. That is the word that he used, was that the perimeter blocking has been a deficiency for them all season. He didn't say it was just bad. He didn't say it was manageable. Didn't say mediocre. He called it a deficiency. And in my opinion, from our standpoint, I think, Austin, and we'll ask Jay obviously when he gets here in a few, it is a coaching staff, whether it's a head coach, coordinator, position coach, identify what you're good at, identify what you're great at, and then identify, maybe we could be a little bit better here. So not only have they identified internally, perimeter blocking, the short passing game, maybe not the most successful. At times with Ja'Cory Barney, it can be. But at times, right? But that's a lot of on Ja'Cory Barney and not necessarily because of Nebraska. Right. So there's that piece to it. But so not only internally have they had those conversations, but now externally and publicly, they have come out and said, we're not good at perimeter blocking. We aren't able to run east-west on some guys. With that, Husker fans can see that Nebraska might just not have a running back. Emmett Johnson's the closest thing being able to make a premier or elite athlete on the defensive side just miss. Right? We saw it multiple times today. Nebraska in the first half especially ran a lot of east-west and just wasn't able to get out of the way of shoestring tackles. So then I say all of that to then point this in there. How many times in the first half did they continue? And this is not me targeting Jamal Banks, because last week it was us having the conversation about Thomas Fidone. But how many times did they try to throw a screen, whether it was a bubble, whether it was a tunnel, whether it was just a dump off, whatever it may be, that involved Jamal Banks blocking downfield? And not once in the first half did he show the ability to do so. There was bad perimeter blocking all over the field today, but in the first half especially, Jamal Banks was not good. So then, why continue to go back to it when not only internally, but publicly, you have been upfront and honest with yourself, with Husker fans, and with your players that perimeter blocking is a deficiency, and yet you still continue to call plays that rely on perimeter blocking to be successful. Be more creative. That's what you're getting paid $1.4 or whatever it is $1 million per year to do. And you have good athletes. You have athletes that are capable of beating a team like Ohio State. We saw it today because Ohio State made more mistakes today than Nebraska did. And that is what allowed Nebraska to be in the position that they were in. There's some nitpicky things that we can certainly go at, but we just open this up with Ohio State gave you present after present after present, and you weren't able to get out of your own way. Last week, it was because you wouldn't embrace the run, or the 19 games before that you've played on offense, you haven't been able to embrace the run. And today, it's the definition of insanity. And I tweeted this out also, doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Nebraska, multiple times, continued to run, screen, or similar designs, relying on their players to do something that they're not good at. And at some point, that cannot be on the players. That has to be on the coaches to put your guys in a position to be successful.
Yes. At Nick_Sainert and at Austin_Orman for the takes. Absolutely go get them. It shouldn't be that hard, but Nebraska makes it look difficult. What I will add to echoing everything that you said there, Nick, is that Nebraska got out-athleted on those screens, right? Jamal Banks is a bigger-bodied wide receiver. What was the tape on Denzel Burke? Be physical with him, right? He doesn't want to engage. But Jamal Banks wouldn't even get a hand on him. Like, okay, you can't play him in those situations. What are you going to do? Bring in Alex Bullock?
Who
false started?
Yes.
Right? Who
false
also
started, and then the illegal shift was on Dylan.
Fidone.
Was on
Fidone motioning in, and Dylan snapped it too soon.
That's right. That's correct.
Was what it was. So even the guys you bring in to block there don't get the job done either. Ohio State's defensive backs and linebackers were and are better athletes than Nebraska's wide receivers and running backs, right? I echo what you would say about Emmett Johnson, right? Dante Dowdell doesn't have the wiggle.
Yeah.
He doesn't, but he's also not necessarily powerful enough to run guys over. He's fine. As soon as he meets a safety that hits relatively hard, he's down. But you know that. So I don't mind Nebraska trying to find ways to isolate Ja'Cory Barney Jr. in space, to isolate Emmett Johnson with a head of steam and vision. I think Emmett probably has the best vision of the backs, I would wager, at least right now. So I don't hate the idea. But then you get down to brass tacks, and you're not coming through on it, right? Linebackers are easily diagnosing it. Joel Klatt was saying on the broadcast, right? Nebraska's a screen-heavy team. But there's not a lot of creative ways. The most creative screen we saw was the 2-point conversion. And you're not running that in the open field. So yeah, the screens weren't working. You're trying to run an athletic type of play against a team that's more athletic than you. So I don't necessarily like that thought process.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't know if Nebraska forced Ohio State into mistakes, if the Buckeyes were just off, a little rusty coming off a bye week. Clearly, they're doing some soul searching as well right now. However the mistakes happened, they happened. And at the end of the day, Nebraska didn't do quite enough to take advantage of them.
So I appreciate, I like this. This comes from John Russell on Twitter. He actually is a Nebraska student.
Hi, John.
Yeah, thanks to John. He tweeted out, Nebraska had 8 screens or swing passes today. that, and some of these are checkdowns now to keep in mind, right? For a total of 7 positive yards. The largest pass completion on one of those designs was for 10 yards. And so there you have it there. So Nebraska falls 21-17 to the Ohio State Buckeyes. There's that 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, and the Starter Heyman text line are open for you guys the entire show today. We'll take a break here in just a few minutes as we approach the 3 o'clock hour. Because we'll have to get some legal ID and commercials in at the 3 o'clock hour per the FCC rules. Let's bring in Jay Foreman, the Husker Hall of Famer. What's up, Jay?
We don't need to take a break. Here's the deal, and this is all jokes aside, and this is being dead serious. And I'm not going to tell Matt Rule or Troy Dannon or the powers that be what to do. At some point in time, you have to kind of go all in for your program. And this is not saying that they haven't, but the egregious calls or non-calls against Nebraska have to be brought to the forefront. Whether it's Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt or so forth and so on, or Mike Pereira, or, as far as the kind of former referee that, I guess is the guy that they go to when they're so egregious against Nebraska in a national televised games. And I know Ohio State is ranked, and yes, it's the sexy part to have Ohio State get through. But when you're Nebraska, when you're out playing them and they're game-changing calls, you have to. If I'm a coach, I'm contemplating whether I bring my team out at halftime. And this is not a shot at Matt Rule or anything like. This is honest to God truth. Because the Emmett Johnson run that was clearly a first down, that 30 seconds runs off before halftime, and I'm assuming that the ref had told the powers that be that they didn't know who the ball, who had possession. Even
Mike Pereira said that. He goes, I think this is just a case of they didn't realize who had the ball. How many are out there?
Right. Well, there's 6 or 7 referees out there.
My goodness.
And it was never a fumble recovery type of thing to where it would be a question. So now it's a choice of not refereeing the game with the purity of the game intact.
And then there's the pass interference that led to that one. And then the tug on Barney on third down, where if he has a step, maybe he catches it first down, you're moving.
And then in the second half, the phantom offensive pass interference.
Jamari Butler in the headlock.
That got the party started. And here's the thing. We know whether it's college or let's go back to high school, because me and Nick, call high school games. Whether it's high school, let's say small college, major college, which would be obviously, FCS and FBS. All the rules are set up to protect the quarterback. Jamari Butler beat the left tackle like a drum, and the left tackle commenced to literally bear hug in I don't know, what do you call that? A headlock. Headlock Jamari Butler at the point of attack, because the quarterback, which is Will Howard, is right there, and you literally watch it and it's like, that's not a holding. But if Jamari Butler had Will Howard at that same of headlock or anywhere around the neck, it would have been roughing the passer, unnecessary roughness. And so at some point in time, I know that for TV and in the 12-team playoff, it's better to have Ohio State get through. And Ohio State earned the victory, and we beat ourselves, because I think in those first 14 points was against us because of busting coverages. But all those others, you cannot make those calls. You cannot be on national TV making those calls.
What's the next step then for that? What is the next step? Is that a decision that needs to be made? Because it is not a good look for a conference. And maybe this is a Tony Petitti question. This is not a good look for the conference as a whole, when week after week you have instances like this. But now it may have happened before on FS1 on a late Friday night game, or it might have happened on Big Ten Network when it's not This is your Fox Big Noon broadcast. Yeah. This is your prized possession, your baby. It is not a good look when you have national pundits tweeting out about it. Ones that aren't even affiliated with either school, with the conference, with the network. this is creating a lot of negative publicity for it. I don't know how Rule holds his tongue this press conference, Jay.
Yeah, and if I get fined, I'm not really worried about it. I mean, you could probably start a GoFundMe or whatever, and I'm sure, right? I'm sure the ticket listeners and everybody else listening would definitely pitch in money for it. And listen, Matt Rule said somebody has to stand up for Nebraska.
Yeah,
but then we got to go a step further. We have to make a stand because, is Ohio State the better team? Like
on paper,
sure.
Were they on turf today?
On turf, I don't think so.
I would agree.
And so was Nebraska able to show that, or I guess I always go to Austin. Was Nebraska able to accentuate that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And the reason why has nothing to do with Ohio State. It has to do with the refs.
Yeah.
It's Ohio State's fault that they weren't able to match Nebraska's intensity and ability to make 50-50 plays or whatever it is. But it's the refs' fault and the Big Ten's fault to allow that to happen on a national broadcast. Because if I'm the SEC or a bowl game, I'm thinking the same thing that we're saying right now.
Yeah.
And I apologize, people, because I lost my voice because I was actually watching the game and yelling, because I was yelling at the TV. And it's like, how can this happen?
Yeah.
How can a offensive tackle Jamari Butler not once but twice, Ty Robinson not once but twice, and then allow the play to go on?
There was a lot that might not even gotten mentioned in the broadcast. There was a lot of I believe it was the Jalen Lloyd coming out of the break, and even Joel Klatz on the broadcast got away with a little tug there. I mean, the guy is completely under his shoulder, the shoulder part of his jersey, and you can see the material, the jersey getting stretched.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like those little things. This is once again your game of the day. This is your A+ crew. And if these guys are supposedly, and if these guys are making the calls, and even you have Mike Pereira, who we mentioned with multiple times today, disagreeing and going.
He never does that. He is the biggest stand up for the ref guy you'll ever hear, and that's why let's hit the ID real quick here, Nick. And then I'll add to it. Let me know when you got it.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
It's a college football issue, right? It hasn't been good all year, just like Major League Baseball, right? I mean, they're so under the microscope, it's been bad there. But I do believe this is a Tony Petitti issue, because think about how long, when Nebraska first got to the Big Ten Conference, how long it went before the opponents had a holding call on them, right? That's a notable streak. Nebraska has to make its own luck. Nebraska has to overcome it, but bad calls matter. They add up. As fans, as outside observers, I think the best way to handle this process, like you guys are saying, with national eyes on this broadcast and this crew, there have to be repercussions and they have to be public. You can't handle this discipline internally because, Nebraska got hosed more than Ohio State, but that one sneak from Will Howard, they spotted him 2 yards short of where.
Exactly.
So it wasn't as bad both ways, but even Ohio State got shorted on a couple, we have to admit. This is a conference-wide issue. I don't know if this was the A team, the B team, whatever team it was. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. You can't just go through the normal process right now of send the clips into the league office. They'll review them. Oh, sorry, we missed it.
Yeah.
We'll get them next time. I promise we're looking out for you. That's not going to suffice. Tony Petitti, you can't tell me Tony Petitti wasn't watching this game. Even if he was at game day in Bloomington, you can't tell me he didn't have eyes on this game. Right. You can't tell me that Troy Dannon can't petition to the league office and say, hey, we need a bit more of an iron fist on this, right? No slaps on the wrist. Demote this crew, right? Send them to the MAC for a season, or at least a month or something like that. Send them to NAI. I don't know, something.
Or you can go to high school.
Because
we've seen them that late. Right? Me and Nick seen them Friday night.
Yeah, you can't just let this continue, because it's going to pop up again in another big game. And if you're one of the two power leagues that wants to set the tone moving forward, set the tone with your officiating, right? It's a simple thing. It's a little thing, but button up the details, because as big a stage as this was for Nebraska, as lucky as Ohio State is to have survived, there are going to be bigger stages. And even if these crews don't get there, they are obviously impacting the teams that do make it through to that stage.
I mean, there's no other, I guess, example from week to week, right? Or week to week. Matt Rule got, I guess, a sideline infraction for getting after the refs. Ryan Day throws his headset while he's on the playing field.
He held on to it. That's the difference. Rule spiked it. Day didn't let go of it. I don't know if that makes a difference.
That doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't. Okay.
As a coach, and the only reason I know the difference is because Mike Pereira and the Gus and Joe said it.
Yeah.
Once you're on the field, all bets are off.
And then he also made, and if you watch closely, as bizarre as this is, and I was telling Austin this, that as bizarre as it is, they didn't throw the flag when he chucked his headset or almost slammed it down. They threw the flag when he backed in and bumped into the official, when he made contact with the official. So that tells you that they were about to let him get away with it, or at least they were going to let it go,
right,
until he made the contact, which is a problem in its own right, because that tells you two things: is one, is you were going to allow it to happen,
right,
and number two, you still didn't call a penalty. You gave him a sideline warning.
And that tells you where the bias is.
Bingo. Right, exactly. And if you're trying to, I guess for me, if I'm trying to elevate my conference, I'm making sure big noon kickoff, I have the best crew that's going to be as neutral as possible, but not going to make plays that's going to have people emailing or calling or tweeting towards me, as in Tony Batiti, as far as Ohio State getting a whole bunch of calls. Because really at the end of the day, when Ohio State lost to Oregon, it really put the Big Ten on notice. Is Ohio State really that team? And are they really well coached? And here comes the Nebraska team that just got mollywopped by Indiana and really outplayed Ohio State. And there were some crucial calls. Now, granted, Nebraska has their own issues, and we'll dive into it on our post-game show. But the reason why we're talking about the rest right now, because I wouldn't get any respect if I just sit up here and said, you know what, Nebraska needs to do, we need to run cover 2 better.
Yeah.
We need to stop jumping on the under route when we're supposed to be in the post and give up the first 14 points together. The things that happened in the game were so simple that I always say it's a choice to make the wrong call. Whereas
put in more effort to not make a play than to make a play.
Okay, let's take the offensive pass interference that came out of nowhere against Nebraska, because you didn't call defensive pass interference when Nebraska on the Nair call, where he kind of fumbled the ball, whereas not only was he being grabbed or up around the clavicle, but then his shoulder or deltoid pad passes off. Let's just talk about Emmett Johnson on the third down or second down, getting the first down. He was 2 yards past the first down. And the best thing that was had to be told, it had to come out of somewhere, where Mike Pereira was saying, well, they might not have known who had possession of the ball. Well, if Ohio State knows who had the possession of the ball, so does Nebraska. How did officials not know?
Yeah.
There's 7 of them.
Well, here's a better part. Then you mark the ball 2 yards behind the first down marker that you're easily ahead of by 2 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt know it. Well, then everybody's saying, well, why isn't Nebraska take a timeout?
Calling a timeout, yeah.
Well, from the naked eye, if we're looking at this, I mean, you guys can't see it. We're looking at this light pole right here. And if Austin or Nick is at the blue trash can, me as a coach, and I know
there's not even a question.
It's not even a question.
And by knowing the rules, it's that when it's
kind of half a timeout.
Well, yeah, when it's under 2 minutes, the clock will stop until the ball is reset. I would say this, when we're talking about the officials piece of it, what better team or game to do to set the standard in?
Right.
Because if you set the standard when Ohio State or Oregon or if it was Michigan last year was playing, and you show that, you know what, they're not going to get preferential treatment, then how is any team in the Big Ten understanding of where they lay or where they lie?
Whether it's Oregon or
Indiana, whether it's Northwestern or Purdue or whatever, they know, well, crap, if Oregon or Ohio State, who is a college football representative for the Big Ten Conference, isn't catching a break, we can't rely on one.
Right.
And they shouldn't.
It's huge because it changes the flow of the game. It changes the cause and effect of the game. It changes the way Nebraska chooses to play calls towards the end of the first half and coming out of the second half. And we're not at the point where it's not like Nebraska's like 1-7. And the reason why I say this is because I talk about this story all the time is, when I was in Houston and we were essentially mathematically and realistically eliminated for the playoffs, and we were playing the Tennessee Titans, and the ump said to me, so, well, you guys aren't going to make the playoffs anyway, so we're going to give the call to the opposing team. Nebraska's at 5-2. Ohio State is at 6-1. There isn't they're both in the thick of things, because if you think about it, if Nebraska got the calls and say they were able to pull out the win, they go to 6-2. And to say this victory springboards in Nebraska to win in the rest of the games, they're 10-2.
Yeah.
And if Ohio State wins the rest of their games, they're 10-2. But you can't get there because the refs or the lack of accountability or realistic, I guess, view of the game, which they are highly paid to do. This isn't a volunteer position. If you are on Big Noon Kickoff, this is what I know from a former player's perspective, but into a ref perspective. If you are on Thursday Night Football, or if you're on Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, primetime afternoon football is on any of the networks, you are being highly compensated to do the basics. The basics weren't done. Now, I will say this. The basics weren't done. It's part of the reason why Nebraska lost, but it's not the whole reason. So now that we addressed it, we can get into why Nebraska lost. And like I said, everybody was saying, well, what do we expect? Me and Nick were on our early pregame show brought to you by A1 Automotive. And they were saying, well, what about a 50-point loss? I told Nick and everybody else, and I'll turn my mic down by Nick. I said, listen, if Nebraska shows up mentally, physically, and spiritually ready to play, we don't have to worry about that. And they actually had a chance to win. So now we
through it all.
Well,
through all the things that we just dissected with the referees, they
Right.
still had the ball they had the ball with 3.5 to go in manageable field position at the 36, I believe, is where they started.
You could have had the ball last.
Yeah.
Despite everything, you had it set up perfectly where you can run your entire playbook, right? You want to take care of the ball. You don't want to force anything deep downfield, but you had the world at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So again, one play away just on top of everything else.
Well, let me ask you guys this. I mean, I mentioned this to Nick, and obviously, Austin, you know me pretty well. Now it's the fun part. Whereas we got the things that we can control, or I guess the players that can control, is the effort, the mindset, the, I guess, spirituality was all intact. Now we can say, okay, well, should we go for what play should we call it on 4th and 1 when we got stopped? Or should we be a little bit more aggressive? This is where it actually gets fun. And this is actually where you don't think about firing coaches. This is where you actually put the pressure on the coaches to think outside the box, versus the easy and the low-hanging fruit is like, oh, well, we got blown out by 49 points, so now we need to really assess the coaching staff. This lets you know that the coaching staff is actually ready and willing, and the players are not just hearing them, but listening to them to get ready to play after you let yourself down. And so now as we move forward and move on to UCLA, now it's actually, we can't let the standard slip, but actually the standard has to go up a notch.
And that's why I think this week of practice into UCLA is going to be a key identification week.
Right.
If you're in your position meetings and your coach, you're talking to every player, getting their pulse after a game like this. The ones that you can sense, oh, here we go again, we just lost, and they're disappointed, hanging their heads, they don't see the field.
Right.
The ones that say, hey, I took what Coach Rule and you said to heart. I believe in it. We played one of our better games of the year. We're so close. I'm excited to get out there against UCLA. Those are the guys that see the field from the rest of the season.
Right. And Nick, what do you think? I mean, because for me, I wanted to see the reaction. Yeah. And was it really, I call it internally. Was I like so embarrassed and let down by myself that me and you were there, because we saw it like up close and personal, that I'm going to rectify it, but then actually I'm going to play to win. I feel like they had a play to win mentality. It didn't work out. Mm-hmm. So now we can kind of dive into everything to help you get to that.
To actually win, not just to play to win.
To play to win. What do you think, Nick?
I was sitting there. I mean, from the kickoff where there was some discombobulation on the kickoff and on the opening kick, I should say, I was concerned. Okay, that's your first moment of adversity. You got nothing on the first drive of the game, similar to Nebraska, Indiana last week. And I thought, okay, you couldn't have scripted a worse start. How do you respond? How do the guys respond? Like you talked about, Jay. And we saw a stark difference between last Saturday and today. So, I mean, if we're looking for positive things, not the offense was slow to get going, but the defense stepped up to start.
Right. And played all game.
If you would have told any of us, any spectator of Husker football, whether you're a fan or you're a media member or a former player like us, if you would have sat there and said, you know what, Nebraska is down 7-0 after 15 minutes of game time, and Ohio State didn't score until within the final minute of the first quarter, we're all saying, man, Nebraska must be playing a pretty disciplined ball game. Well, and it wasn't the prettiest.
No,
but they did their job.
I mean, it's not even about doing your job. They not only did their job, they competed. That's the most important thing. Because I mean, if there was ever a time not to fumble a first kickoff return, it was Ohio State.
After doing it last week.
Right after doing it last week. Well, guess what happened? You did it. And then you come out the first drive and really get nothing.
And you shank a punt.
And then you shake a punt with the guy, which is so stupid for people out there worried about who's on the pregame, I guess, media.
24 hours out.
24 hours out is Brian Buschini, and he shanks the first punt, right? It's like in golf. You get up there and you miss a 3-footer, right? Which we've all done before. Well, here's what the defense does. Comes out there like last week, backs against the wall. I call it sudden change because it is sudden that you're essentially all Big Ten first or second team punter shanks one, and then you stop them on fourth down.
Yeah.
And then the offense kind of gets going, gets a little bit of confidence, and gets down there. And so I think it's a lot of missed opportunities, but also there's outside factors. So now that as we saw the team play, and here's what I'm going to say from a former player's perspective, alumni and or whatever you want to call it perspective. Now that they have shown the grit, the want to, and then the willingness to face adversity under the most unideal situation possible, if you're a team that's trying to kind of get back in the mix, going on the road at Ohio State, now that they've shown they're willing to answer the bell and then willing to go above, playing to just not embarrass yourself. They actually played to win. Now you've shown what you could do. Now the pressure is obviously on the players to continue along that process and get like 10% better to win those type of games and obviously play well against UCLA. But now is the fun part. Yep. Now we get to ask really realistic questions, to Matt Rule, Satterfield, Tony White, Foley, and whoever else out there, how we can kind of gain that 1.5% from defense, the 6.5% from offense, the 2% from special teams to get that 10% to win these games or win multiple games coming down the stretch in the last 4.
Nice math there, by the way.
You like that? I was actually, when I was saying it, I was pausing a little bit so I could get there. But now it's actually fun because last week it questioned whether did you really want to answer the bell?
Yeah.
What really got accomplished in the bye week? So when a coach says, I was shocked, now you really realize, like, Matt Rule was shocked about that.
Yeah.
This is the team that he knows he's seen for January all the way to into October.
I thought, and this is going to be something that might go under the radar here, Jamari Butler's final stat line, 5 total tackles, 4 on his own, 1 sack, 3 TFLs. He was the guy that
got the party started.
Well, no. Last week after the Indiana game came out publicly and said our defense, when a big play would hit us in the mouth, they folded. We folded. He said the defense lost all confidence last week. There's so much, and Jay, you and I and Austin, we have so many conversations, both on air and off air, about guys stepping up. And there's so much talk that goes on with press conferences and social media. But to see a guy like Jamari Butler
take it upon himself.
Yes.
Not only to come out and hold his guys accountable publicly, but then the next week do it on his own and show up himself where everybody can see it. That's the type of leadership I think Nebraska's been starving for, especially defensively the last couple of years.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'll tell you guys, and I'll tell everybody on the postgame show, I'm not big on, there's quite a few guys on the team that I have a personal relationship with. Jamari is actually a special relationship I have with. There's a lot I see in Jamari that he don't see in himself. And just for the fact that he went out there and brought it to fruition, I'll I guess expose everybody to the conversation I had with him before the game. So during the week, it's let him get over and let him do the healing process. That's what I always say is you forgive yourself but you don't forget. So I let him go through the process himself. But about Tuesday or Wednesday, I called him. I said, Jamari, and it's a very one-sided conversation. I said, it's time for you to get your get back. He said, say less. But before the game, I told him, I said, listen, I said, you guys have been through a lot. And I said it to another player, but I talk about Jamari. I said, my respect for you goes a lot farther than you may know right now, because I'm approaching 50 and you're not even close to 30. I said, for your willingness to come back and answer the bell, I have respect for you. Now you have to go take your respect. He said, I appreciate that. Well, before the game, I said, listen, the most dangerous, this is the life lesson. This has nothing to do with football. I said, the most dangerous people that you will ever encounter in your life, and that you will be at some point in time in your life, is a person that has nothing to lose. That's the most dangerous man that you could ever come across. I said, as of right now, you guys, meaning you and your teammates, hopefully led by you, are the most dangerous team on the NCAA football. And I said, at this point in time, you have to realize it. And then on top of it, you need to adopt the savage mentality. He said, I understand the mission. I will do it. Say less. I will talk to you after the game and show you what I've done. And it came out to fruition. And, look, sometimes, as hard as it may be for we're all empathetic to these kids, right? They, as you should be, where they get a lot of money, which I shouldn't be empathetic to, right? They make a lot of money, more money than, a lot of people in the state of Nebraska. And there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of distractions. But ultimately, if you put them into a vacuum, they will adapt. But then ultimately, that lets you know where the difference is between year 2 with Matt Rule and say year 2 or 3, 4 with previous staffs, is you have the guys that are at the end of their career actually diving into and trying to make this thing right. So what the biggest point is as great as it is, I guess it was a moral victory, and we can actually realistically blame the reffing crew for the outcome. You actually have to double down on it next week and win against UCLA to make it actually concrete. And so that's where the pressure starts for this team. Get over the loss, understand the magnitude of what you've done, but then also have that excite you for bigger and better things moving on to next week.
You as a team, I'm saying you were able to kind of get the nasty view of what your program was after last weekend out of a lot of people's minds today. I mean, through it all. If you're just a casual football fan, Jay, we talked about it in Bloomington last week. We talked about it on our segment on the pregame show as well. The opportunity was there to show the country what kind of program you can be and what kind of football team you are. And despite the loss, and this isn't us trying to be like, hey, you know what? Everything is okay. It's okay that Nebraska lost.
No,
this isn't us saying participate, like, hey, nice job for just going out there and playing well. But after a 56-7 showing, and then having to turn around in less than a week and travel and play a top 5 team in the country who's coming off of a bye week and an extra week to prepare for you, to put a performance on the field that not only I think Nebraska can be somewhat confident and proud of, but also everybody's leaving that stadium going, you know what? Nebraska deserved to be on national TV today just as much as Ohio State did.
And I think we mentioned it with the standard, right? Because you know what it is now. And we're not saying that because Nebraska lost this game close, 5-0 is the expectation. But playing to the standard, playing up to their capabilities is. And I don't think it would be fair, to say, oh, yeah, one game changes everything. But we saw something, at least I saw something from Nebraska in terms of that resolve and that mental toughness that I wasn't sure they had in them, right? There were a lot of those big picture questions. I mean, especially with the comment you brought up about Jamari Butler. Nick, right? What he said.
Yeah.
If that's a senior leader who stuck around to play one more year for Matt Rule because he believes in it and he's still seeing it from other people, right? That worried me, right? That you're 19 games in and there's not buy-in. I'm not saying everything is 100% perfectly fixed, but they turned a corner mentally. And Jay, you can probably speak to this more. It's hard to get better physically. It might even be tougher to get over that hump mentally. Right. So now Nebraska has at least started to turn the corner mentally, and we can have those what do we have to do better physically conversations.
Yeah, I mean, this is the fun time for if I was in the locker room to say, listen, we actually have answered the bell. Now we actually have to hyper focus, where we're at, right? Like, so the intensity or the get back or whatever you want to call it, that has to be bottled every day in practice, every day in meetings, every day in the weight room, every day outside of the mandatory things to set us up for success against UCLA and Wisconsin and obviously Iowa, USC down the road, right? So now we know what we can do, what we're capable of, going on the road in the horseshoe for a team that's actually has more at stake than us, that's motivated. Don't think, Nebraska fans, don't think Ohio State didn't show up with the plans to blow Nebraska out, to make a statement. They did. Bye week or not, they were highly motivated. So that means the challenge for Nebraska was almost twice as much, against them than a normal game. Mm-hmm. So you have to take the positives from the day and obviously not essentially minimize the negatives, but you use the negatives as essentially as a growing process. And that's what you said, Austin. Listen, we promise, and this is what the players need to say to themselves and to the team, or to the other players in the locker room. We're going to make a promise to ourselves. Every day, we're going to show up with the intent to get better and not get through practice. We're gonna move in a unified motion together to be the best team we can be. Now, which is oddly enough, which it doesn't happen like this. Now we're going to put all the pressure, all the the onus on the coaches and the support staff to make us better. Mm-hmm. And that's a position, to be honest with you, Nick and Austin, as a former player, if that is the approach inside that locker room, we haven't been in quite some time. I mean, I'm talking about we haven't been in that way, easy guesstimation, since Bo was here. I mean, you guys are younger than me. Is that fair enough to say? So since Bo was here, as far as the players leading the team and then throwing all the crap to the coaches, hasn't been on task or at least on the docket or at least since Bo has been here.
And I think obviously a win would have been better, but this is an opportunity for Nebraska to prove it's turned the corner by not getting complacent, right? You didn't achieve anything. You still lost the game. You are in the exact same position you were last year at 5-3 going into November.
Right.
Last year, you biffed it. You went 0-4 and you had plenty of opportunities to win games that you didn't win. Now is the time, after a performance like this, your eyes should be open. That light bulb should have switched on. You should be hungry to get back to work. You don't want a day off. You want to get back at it and say, hey, my hunger, my love for the game of football is reignited. We fell short, but I fell back in love with the game of football, with the work, with the grind to get better. It's that intoxicating feeling that makes you want to stay in the facility with your teammates, trying to be one or two plays better so that all the work and all that hunger is paid off.
Let's put a pin there, because we're getting a lot of texts on the text line, a lot of questions about the offense, and we'll also hear from Matt Rule in a couple of minutes as well. So once again, 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline and the Starter Heyman text line. They are open for you guys the rest of the post-game reaction show, Jay Foreman Postgame show. Want to thank our sponsors, friends of the show, Anderson Ford of Lincoln, State Farm, and Vinny Kreekak. Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Tavern 180, and of course, Tanner's Bar and Grill for their support of the postgame show this afternoon. Nebraska once again falls 21-17 on the road at number 4, Ohio State. Jay, let's talk offense when we come back because we're getting a lot of questions regarding the Huskers side.
And as it should. So we're going to take a quick break, come back, Jay Foreman postgame show. I'm here with my man, Nick Stainer, and obviously the co-partner here with Austin. We'll be right back.
Hey, bestie. Whoa, how'd you snag that awesome set of wheels? I'm in the market for a new car, too. My friends at Members Own Credit Union. You're always in the driver's seat when it comes to your finances at Members Own. Always in the driver's seat, huh? Yep. They set you up with a loan that makes sense for your budget with great rates and top-notch customer service to boot. Looks like we're going to need to make a pit stop. Let's go. I'll drive. Hit the road to financial success and explore auto loan options with your best financial friend, Members Own Credit Union. For details, go to membersowncu.org/drive. Federally insured by the NCUA.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call John Henry's at 402-435-5555 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-435-5555.
You have a big investment in your farming operation. Let Landmark Implement help you get the most out of your equipment by investing in pre-season service inspections. Let our John Deere trained and certified technicians provide you with a complete list of repairs that will help your equipment perform better and deliver maximum performance. At Landmark, buy 3 equipment service inspections and get the 4th free. Contact your local Landmark service manager for details and experience the Landmark difference.
At Anderson Ford, we offer a 5-day return or exchange policy so you can make sure the vehicle you choose is the best vehicle for you. No pressure. Right now, take over $11,000 off a 2024 Ford F-150. Experience better at Anderson Ford. Stock number 1004296, MSRP of $66,645. Must finance with Ford Motor Company and have a qualifying trade and approved credit. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 11/13/24. See delivery details.
Explain to me again why we're sleeping on the ground.
Because we're thramping. Thrift camping. It's saving us money and getting us closer to nature.
But we don't need to thramp. I just combined our home and auto insurance with our State Farm agent, so we have a rate that fits our budget.
All right. Do you think our agent can bring us an air mattress?
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Kreekak, at 402-474-1173.
Individual premiums and budgets will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Ready to hit the road in style? Liberty First Credit Union is revving up your ride with unbeatable auto loan specials. Cruise away with rates as low as 4.79% APR for 48 months on a 2020 or newer vehicle. Need a longer term? No worries. They've got you covered with 4.89 APR for 60 months and 4.99 APR for 72 months. Hurry, these rates are cruising fast, so don't get left in the dust. Visit LibertyFirstCU.com. Credit factors apply. Rates, terms, and conditions subject to change.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Tanner's Bar and Grill is the best place in Lincoln for a casual get-together, best place to watch a game, and the best for pre- and post-game. Catch college and NFL football as well as the volleyball action this season at Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. What's better than wings, cold beer, and a Husker win? Enjoy great food and drink specials every day and tons of TVs to catch all the action. Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill.
Once in a lifetime event. You miss it, it's gone forever. It's Schaefer's 78th anniversary extravaganza.
Maybe a little dramatic, but you get the point. It's Schaefer's 78th anniversary. Our celebration means savings for you on top names throughout our huge TV gallery. Plus, save hundreds on Serta, Beauty Rest, and Sutherland mattress sets, and get free delivery on your qualified purchase. Hurry in for the savings during Schaefer's 78th anniversary event.
It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier Kawasaki dealership. Score big on Kawasaki's most dependable side-by-side, the Mule Pro, built to take on your most demanding days. Rule the streets on an Indian motorcycle with customer cash and trade-in credits up to $2,000 during the month of October. On or off-road, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered with large selection of motorcycles and side-by-sides in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Stop by every Saturday for their Husker tailgate with free food, drinks, and games. Attention students and anyone else looking for a great deal. Sun Valley Lanes and Games has the ultimate weeknight special. For just $15.95, enjoy unlimited bowling, lucky putt mini golf, and laser tag. Flash your college ID at check-in to receive $2 off your admission. It's the perfect way to unwind Sunday through Thursday nights. Check out sunvalleylanes.com for hours and availability. Sun Valley Lanes and Games, located at 321 Victory Lane.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete. Sun Valley.
Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Tavern 180, Vinnie Kreekak of State Farm Insurance, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical.
What up? We're back. Second segment, Jay Foreman Postgame Show. My man Nick Sainer. We appreciate Austin holding the fort down until I get here. 21-17, Huskers fell to Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State coming in pretty much a 26-point favorite. Nebraska was able to answer the bell, but fell short. It wasn't a moral victory. It was a loss, and there is a big difference. A moral victory is, in my opinion, playing to not get embarrassed versus a loss is playing to win, and you just came up short and made some mistakes at the end. Obviously, we had an interception on offense as we were trying to drive and take over the lead, or the multitude of situational football situations that we didn't take advantage of that was either aided or abetted by the referees. No longer. We'll talk about that. We are officially on at 3:35 on to UCLA. But we want to make sure that we, recognize the positives and not minimize the negatives. But one of the things that has been on the text line, correct me if I'm wrong, is Nick, is the state or the status of the offense. And here's what I think about the offense. I think that, we started out with Dante Dowdell, and with Vermeer out, I think Emmett Johnson came in, and it's all about styles. I feel like Emmett Johnson's running style gives Nebraska more what they need at this point. But that doesn't mean that Dante Dowdell can't start or get it as many carries as he's averaged over the season. Here's why I think Emmett Johnson's running style fits Nebraska, or his Emmett Johnson in general, is because he helps out in the pass protection game, the pass receiving game, the rhythm game. And here's what I mean by rhythm game. The way that he hits the hole is patient, and how can run the inside-outside zone or whatever play you want to run from the conventional running game he can do. And then also what he does is he runs with a little bit more physicality than anybody across the nation is given credit to. But also I think the two-headed monster, along with it, Ramir, and then Gabe is obviously a distant fourth, I feel like is a good combination in that running back room. Now, how does that affect the offense? Is when Emmett was in there, you saw a little bit more I guess, explosiveness, more rhythm, more continuity. And then I think as the game went on, you kind of went back and forth, and Dante started getting going in the second half. But I think offensively, they were fine. I think they realistically started off extremely slow because we were backed up. And then as the game went on, I feel like the reins were off the offense and, all the skill position in the offensive line to do more. And that's where I think you saw more points being scored on a consistent basis than in the first half.
I think the whole rising tides lifts all boats kind of comment can be applied here, because I think today especially we saw where when Emmett Johnson started to turn it on a little bit more, he finished the day not glamorous, but 8 carries for 30 yards. He had a 14-yard carry mixed in there as well. But Jay, I told you this during the break, like it felt like as Emmett Johnson's play and intensity kind of was dialed up and he found success.
Yep.
We saw Dante Dowdell kind of match the intensity.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you need.
And that's not a negative, but it shows that not only do you have competitive guys in the room, but why does it take one to kind of lift the rest of the room?
Well, I mean, it's different situations, right? Like you think when you're a starter is different than coming off the bench.
Yes.
So to Dante's credit, they know who he is, how he runs, and when he's going to be in the game based on him starting. And so you're able to, I guess, game plan that and make calls towards, whether 23 is in the game or not. Emmett comes in and instantly gets off and gets going, which then opens up some more, I guess, basic runs from Dante Dowdell in the second half based on what Emmett Johnson was able to do in adverse situations. And so I think the positive out of it is, depending on the style that you have to adapt your offense to, we have an answer clearly at running back with 4 different guys. Now we need to get to the point of being effective in the running game early and often, and that's what I don't think we were able to do, but eventually we got to it with a change of running back and then back to Dante Dowdell. I felt like it was good for Nebraska. I think ultimately the biggest thing that we need to do as a football team is start a little bit faster, dominate situational football, and then play with the killer instinct down the stretch.
Let's talk about the freshman quarterback. Dylan Raiola finishes 21 of 32 through the air, 152 yards, no touchdowns. Obviously, the one was essentially a touchdown, but got wiped away to Isaiah Nair in the fourth quarter. But then one INT on the last drive of the game for Nebraska. Ja'Cory Barney led the way, 7 catches on 10 targets for 49 yards. Thomas Fidone was second on the team, 4 catches on 4 targets for 55 yards. What did you see out of Dylan today? Because I feel like coming into the day, Ohio State's DBs were maybe one that was an area where it felt like maybe Nebraska was going to be able to get some plays. We know that they allowed quite a few explosive plays against Oregon a couple of weeks ago. However, I don't know if we can pin that on Dylan Raiola or if that's more of a receiver conversation.
I think it's more of a referee conversation.
Sure.
Because
and Jamal Banks was open on the somewhat of an offensive pick play that Dylan did miss Jamal Banks on that could have been 6 points, but we're nitpicking at that.
I think obviously you'd like to have our 19-year-old freshman quarterback be pinpoint accuracy every single pass, and that's just the unrealistic expectations that we have for him. But then more importantly, I feel like from last week to this week, I think we're more competitive out on the edges as far as from Nair and Jamal Banks, and the production was there. So I think the biggest thing that I would like to see from the offense in general was a little bit more of area passing game, short, middle, deep, because I think that would have helped the team as far as spacing and the quarterbacks, essentially 1 or 2 looks on the read, or if not, then tuck it around. And that's what you saw with Colin Kaepernick and so forth and so on as they got older. But I think ultimately with Dylan, running the show as a quarterback, I think it was a big step because he was able to take himself, put him into the horseshoe, lead the team, and not blink once as a true freshman. Now you need everybody else to go along in the way. And so it's a unique, when you look at the freshmen, or not the freshmen, but at the wide receiver group as a general.
Yeah.
right? You got Lloyd, who participates in essentially track at the NCAA level, potentially the Olympic level. You have him, and then you have a multitude of athletes. You got Carter Nelson, you got Fedoni, and then you got Banks, you got Nair. And so when you look at it, you got to make sure that you're calling the plays that are effective for each position group and each individual based on the situational football that you're in. And, I felt like Nebraska at times ran the ball very effective, and then sometimes not so much effective. And so you got to get in the rhythm of play calling, but then also you have to have a keen eye on execution and what group is not able to execute. And, I felt like Nebraska's wide receivers came out and competed a little bit better than they had in the weeks before in the run game. Still needs to get significantly better. I felt like they were more competitive at the point of attack as far as catching passes. But then I think also we need to, before we do all that, is establish a run game and a physicality identity that you can have for the next 4 weeks, because you're going to have to close out a game in the next 6 minutes, or in the next weeks, 6 minutes or less, and it has to be led by your offensive line and running backs.
Where did you land on the elephant in the room, the play calling, right? Because let's not act like we aren't aware of the conversations that were had in the public eye this week regarding Marcus Satterfield, right? And that was a big question mark coming in, is his comments obviously on Tuesday, Matt Rule's comments to kind of back him up on Thursday. Today, Nebraska ran the ball 33 times as a team for 121 total yards and a touchdown. That's good for 3.7 yards per carry, which is fine. For context, Ohio State as a team ran it 31 times for a total of 64 yards, which is about 2.1 yards per carry. So you don't want to play the comparison game there. But Nebraska, they ran the ball and they kind of stuck with it, but also the score was in a spot to where they were able to.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the play calling, like, I know everybody was all bent out of shape about the yards per play and the offensive coordinator having those numbers right away. I don't really worry about that, because I know as a high level, meaning big upper echelon of Big Ten, SEC, so forth and so on, it's the minor leagues of football. So the way that you think is different than the bottom, 2/3 of the league, and where you stand and what you can prepare and obviously be evaluated on. And so I think that the way that it was gone, or the way it went about, is fine. I think the biggest part is getting guys to buy into that culture, but once they buy in, exceed expectations. So if you look at the teams over time, whether it's the pros or college, they generally have 2 or 3 guys that are either came in at walk-ons or a backup tight end and really earned their way into the, let's say, the respectability chamber on the team. And then that has led the 60% that I talked about yesterday, that's, willing and able to watch the former Elkhorn, middle schools go against others, to where you can gotta get out there and compete on the big stage. So I think it's one of those things that you got to do as a football team and as a program, to know where you're at, where you're going, how you do it, and then make sure you have an evaluation process going forward.
When we come back, Jay, before we take a break, I guess we'll talk Matt Rule, obviously, when we come back, because we'll hear a little bit from the head coach. I'm sure there was quite a few sound bites in the post-game press conference, so we'll hear from Matt Rule. I also think it's important to talk special teams today, because John Hull stepped up. The entire department stepped up. So go ahead and send us a break, my man, and let's talk special teams.
Before we go to break, obviously it's been the special teams. Look, starting the game was easy. Yeah. It's easy pickings. All right, we got to get everybody out of here. But look, Matt Rule has been saying that John Hull has been kicking better in practice, and he has a lot more confidence in him than previous. It came to fruition today.
Yeah.
So give the credit to Coach Foley, the assistant coaches, the assistant to assistant coaches, and then obviously to Coach Hull. Brett Maher is down there as well. Really good job on special teams. But we're gonna go to a break. Jay Foreman postgame show. We'll come back. We'll listen to Matt Rule, evaluate what he's saying, see if he dives into any of the officiating deficiencies and what he thought about the game. But we're gonna take a quick break. We'll come right back and dive into it.
Explain to me again why we're sleeping on the ground.
Because we're thramping. Thrift camping is saving us money and getting us closer to nature.
But we don't need to thramp. I just combined our home and auto insurance with our State Farm agent, so we have a rate that fits our budget.
All right. Do you think our agent can bring us an air mattress?
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Kreekak, at 402-474-1173.
Individual premiums and budgets will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
Hey, Nebraska football fans, it's defensive lineman Ty Robinson, and I've got a winning play for you with Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. Team up with Action and install a new Bradford white water heater in your home. And if we win the conference championship this season, you'll get a full refund. Don't fumble this opportunity. Sack your old water heater this season and score big with Action. Visit actionlincoln.com/Huskers to learn more.
Promotion valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Once in a lifetime event. You miss it, it's gone forever. It's Schaefer's 78th anniversary extravaganza.
Maybe a little dramatic, but you get the point. It's Schaefer's 78th anniversary. Our celebration means savings for you on top names throughout our huge TV gallery. Plus, save hundreds on Serta, Beauty Rest, and Sutherland mattress sets, and get free delivery on your qualified purchase. Hurry in for the savings during Schaefer's 78th anniversary event.
Tanner's Bar and Grill is the best place in Lincoln for a casual get-together, best place to watch a game, and the best for pre- and post-game. Catch college and NFL football as well as the volleyball action this season at Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. What's better than wings, cold beer, and a Husker win? Enjoy great food and drink specials every day and tons of TVs to catch all the action. Tanner's Bar and Grill, 30th and Yankee Hill.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Bryant at 402-467-1111 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-467-1111.
It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier Kawasaki dealership. Score big on Kawasaki's most dependable side-by-side, the Mule Pro, built to take on your most demanding days. Rule the streets on an Indian motorcycle with customer cash and trade-in credits up to $2,000 during the month of October. On or off-road, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered with large selection of motorcycles and side-by-sides in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Stop by every Saturday for their Husker tailgate with free food, drinks, and games.
Empower a child today with a Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Hey, bestie. Whoa, how'd you snag that awesome set of wheels? I'm in the market for a new car, too. My friends at Members Own Credit Union. You're always in the driver's seat when it comes to your finances at Members Own. Always in the driver's seat, huh? Yep. They set you up with a loan that makes sense for your budget with great rates and top-notch customer service to boot. Looks like we're going to need to make a pit stop. Let's go. I'll drive. Hit the road to financial success and explore auto loan options with your best financial friend, Members Own Credit Union. For details, go to membersowncu.org/drive. Federally insured by the NCUA.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
At Anderson Ford, we offer a 5-day return or exchange policy so you can make sure the vehicle you choose is the best vehicle for you. No pressure. Right now, take over $11,000 off a 2024 Ford F-150. Experience better at Anderson Ford. Stock number 1004296, MSRP of $66,645. Must finance with Ford Motor Company and have a qualifying trade and approved credit. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 11/13/24. See delivery details.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
Mindel Footwear is your solution against sore feet, blisters, and poor footing. Don't just take our word for it. Take it from Sip, who said he's never had a pair of boots more comfortable. You won't find Mindel Footwear in any store, sold exclusively at MindelUSA.com right out of Sidney, Nebraska. They're so confident you will enjoy the comfort their boots offer. If they don't work out for you, they'll cover the shipping to return them. Use code THETICKET for free shipping because your feet deserve a treat too. Mindel Boots, just try them on.
This is Chris Elgert, loan originator at Lincoln Federal. With over 20 years in the industry, I have found it's extremely gratifying to solve my customers' home financing needs and then show them the options and strategies available for them to fulfill their goals. But my biggest reward comes when I watch my valued customers experience the American dream of home ownership and move into their new home. Talk with me about your home loan at Lincoln Federal and Go Big Red. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Personal banking like you remember.
Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Tavern 180, Vinnie Kreekak of State Farm Insurance, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical.
What up? We're back. Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Obviously, the Huskers fell 21-17 to Ohio State Buckeyes. A lot to take from it. You know, obviously the officiating was a big factor in it. We had the Matt Rule presser or post-game presser. A lot to dive in there, Nick. You know, obviously the text line has been popping because it's changed a lot of opinions in a short time. With this, you could say it's a week, but in a matter of 48 to 72 hours.
We'll dive into Matt Rule here in a second. I want to touch on something we kind of discussed during the break of like what is now priority number one? Because I think you can get out of this game, hop on the plane, get back to Lincoln, look at film and say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we should have won that game. If you're Nebraska, It's not me saying that. Nebraska should have won that game.
Or could have. Realistically could have won that
chances,
game.
Right?
Yeah.
However, more importantly, it's Indiana felt like, I hate using the word fluke, but I don't really know any other adjective. Is that number one? Is that the number one priority? Is like, you're kind of baffled that Indiana happened now.
Yeah, you are. That's why I said on the Foreman's Four, you know, brought to you by Fast Max Hauling is like, forgive yourself, but never forget. I mean, that's what you're saying. The exact same thing I say is number one. Forgive yourself, but never forget. Forgive yourself for letting yourself down, not showing up ready to play, not having the right mindset, intent, and emotional aggressiveness or stability to show up and compete on a national level. There it is, man. And my man Dave from Renew right there. He's probably headed over to Jake's to get busy. But, you know, I think that's what you have to do. I mean, yes, you can't keep going back to it and saying, what if, why, X, Y, and Z, because all those answers were answered into the reason why you played to your capability today. And so what the mindset has to be once you get on the plane is, I want more. We need more. Let's double down, triple down, or push all chips to the middle of the table because yes, UCLA is a winnable game, but so is USC, so is Wisconsin, and so is Iowa. But the only way we get to those W's is not only we do what we did this week to get our get back right, our respect right, our I guess our footing within the Big Ten, in this whole landscape of NIL and X, Y, and Z. We did that this week, but we have a lot more in the tank. We need to do a little bit more. We need to play so good and so efficient, so free, so physical, so mentally focused that it takes the game out of the referee's hand. And so, or the referee's hands, or whatever you want to call it. And so I think that needs to be the mindset. The mindset has to be more of, this is exactly who we know, who we are, versus who we thought we were. We know who we are. We can't change that. Once you've done it one time on a national stage in a situation where one of the top 5 teams in the nation has a point to prove, meaning they're trying to blow you out, so they're going to be extremely motivated, and you not only answered the bell, you played with a championship mentality, you played to win, but came up short. Now let's immediately get back to work.
We talked Jamari Butler a while ago. Specifically, we didn't talk about the defense as a whole. Nebraska's defensive back struggled at times today. A couple of penalties, obviously, on Nebraska's defensive backs that were questionable, but there was like the hold on one of the defensive backs was not questionable. It was an overthrown ball. Probably could have been let. I mean, the way that it was being called, you didn't need to call the penalty, but they did anyway. However, this was a makeshift offensive line for Ohio State. It was not their usual 5 suspects out there. It had still been pretty good this year. It had still been a top offensive line in the country. They had only allowed 5 sacks a game, or 5 sacks on the entire season in 6 games. Nebraska records 2 sacks today.
Mm-hmm.
They get in the backfield 7 times and record 7 tackles for losses. They also forced a fumble on Will Howard on the one that was recovered by their offensive lineman. Let's start up front with the 4 guys, including Jamari Butler. You could throw James Williams in there, but most importantly, Nash and Ty. What did you see from those guys getting pressure on the quarterback today?
I mean, I felt like they did a really good job all day. I mean, you got to think there was multiple holding calls, and I'm talking about egregious non-calls on Jamari Butler, at least 2 of them, and 2 other ones with Ty Robinson, and you can throw in Cam Linhart and company after that as well. And so I felt like they did well against the run and against the pass, and even when they played well and the play was a little bit slow development and Henderson broke out and got a 12-yard gain, you got to give him credit for that, because he's a really good back. He's an NFL runner. He's going to make some plays when you have the perfect call and execution against it. And so, but overall, I felt like the front did a really good job of controlling the pace of the game, controlling the physicality of the game, but then also reestablishing the line of scrimmage. And obviously they saw the fruits of the labor when Nebraska eventually committed. And so, it's kind of win, twofold. But I think the biggest thing coming out of this game is, defensively, learning and accepting and dealing with adversity. The adversity is, phantom, pass interference calls. The adversity is when it's a crucial part, when we have them backed up. Jamari Butler beats the left tackle with the inside pass rush, where you hit him with the inside arm and you kind of extend it, and then the offensive tackle tackles them at the point of attack, and the referee is looking at it. But generally in the past, that would lead to 7 points, which would lead to a quick 3 and out by the offense and another, 3 points or 7 points by the opposition. Well, the defense not only dealt with that individually and collectively, they came back and got them off the field on 4th down, 4 plays later. So the growth in this game in offense, defense, special teams was huge. And so now to make it, I guess concrete, you have to do it for the next 4 weeks. And so if I'm Coach Rule, if I'm Coach, Foley or whoever it needs to be, I'm taking whatever we did in practice and bottling it up, and then I'm going to bring it to our practice day in and day out and expand on it with the hopes and assumption that we're going to be able to dominate the game for more than, let's say, half or 2/3 of the game. But it's the 3 out of 3 or 4 out of 4 as far as your grading system.
Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
All right, so once again, Nick Sainer, Jay Foreman with you on the Jay Foreman postgame show. Let's hear Matt Rule on the defensive performance. Here's what the Husker head coach had to say.
I thought our defense was dominant all day. Save 3 plays, take away 3 plays. I think on the first one, we were playing a little 3 down and we took advantage of it. Tony did such a nice job. We kind of recognized pretty early we were going to be able to rush the passer, so he went back to 4 down. The second one, kind of a condensed set check, and they just, Jeremiah is a really, really good player. He ran by us, and just a nice play by them. Just they made a play, right? And then really the third one, they just kind of ran a double move out and up and just caught us in the zone coverage where you need someone just to make a great play. We just, we didn't see it. But on those 3 plays, I think that was probably as good a defense as I've seen, for most of the day. I thought we tackled well, we handled the run, we won on the perimeter, we hit the quarterback. I think my eyes aren't very good, so it's hard. I don't know what the third down numbers were, but I thought we were excellent on third down, including some 1 for 10, some 3rd and 1s and 3rd and 2s, a 4th and 1 stop. So, we won until the last play. We won the turnover battle with Matt Malcolm's great pick. So, I don't think it was anything special. They have a great run game. Chips. They've got great players, got a great coach. I think our guys just played really well, played physical, played hard, got off blocks. We didn't do anything real special today.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, it was from the start where Nebraska, even on the first drive of the for Ohio State, Emeka Ibuka catches the pattern inside the kind of the crosser across the middle, and he was a yard short. Nebraska forces the 4th down and short, and they stop him. I mean, holding a team and offense with as many weapons to 1 for 10 on 3rd down, despite it being a loss, is something I think you can hold your hat or hang your hat on. And I think Matt Rule made a really good point there at the start about they just made a play. Ohio State and a lot of teams at this level, there's going to be, they just make plays.
Right, sure.
It's how can you avoid it from snowballing? And Nebraska did a really good job defensively from allowing that to happen.
I mean, if you want 2 drastic defensive efforts from one week to another, it's Nebraska, Indiana versus Ohio State. Now, I would have no problem winning an argument to saying that Ohio State is definitely more athletically and skill-wise better than Indiana. And I think it's just getting out of your own way, playing with the right intentions and emotion, and then obviously playing for each other and with each other leads to this, right? And it started in the first series. Look, the offense, or first of all, special teams offense was that series is not how you want to start on the road at the Horseshoe with Ohio State. You punt the ball, shank the ball, nevertheless with the punter. Defense out there, 4th down, stop them, and then it never stopped from there on they're moving forward. It's no different than last year on the road at Illinois, goal line stand against the 4th down goal line stand, and then it led to some explosiveness on offense, which obviously Illinois last year is nowhere near Colorado, or not Colorado, but Ohio State this year. And so there's a lot you could take away from it. They came out with the right mindset and stuffed their run game and held their head above water in the pass game. I think, as I'm on the plane, who knows, they might be back or whatever, I'm thinking like, dang, if we would have ran the middle of the field a little bit better with cover 2, what would have happened? If we would have not bit on the, top down, if it's cover 2 or cover 4 with the deep dig by a tight end, what would have happened because they hit us with the skinny post behind me where I would potentially be as a safety net. And so you walk away with that game with a little bit of disgust because the controllables were at like 98%, let's say 95%, and that 5% that you didn't do cashed in for touchdowns. But then you're on the other side, said, you know what? This is actually the team and the, components of it that we expected to be and that the coaches expected to be. We got 4 more games, and now we have to essentially play as good as we did today, and then some moving forward to get us not only bowl eligible, to get to the bowl game that potentially we thought about before the season.
Let's hear a couple more things from Matt Rule before we close it out and hand it off to Austin. We'll probably hear from DP from Columbus, Ohio here in the next couple of minutes as well once Austin takes over. Let's talk running game. Run game found some life, says Matt Rule. Here's what the Husker head coach had to say.
I thought we found some runs in the third quarter. We ran a couple wham trap plays. We whammed the 3 technique, and Dante was close to splitting one. He looked like he was about to go for 80, and the guy came and tackled him around the ankles. So I thought we got the run game going there. And, we punted the ball down, then we got the pick, so we played on their side of the 50. We look back at the game just from a football perspective. You have to make more of those opportunities, whether it's the goal line plays that Sam talked about or not always kicking field goals, but scoring some more touchdowns. That was part of it. But again, they have a great defense. But our kids made some plays to hang in there and stay with it.
Part of being a running back, Jay, and correct me if I'm wrong, you got to be able to make some guys miss.
Sure.
Right? The play can be as blocked as well as at times today Nebraska's offensive line did. They blocked pretty well at some
they showed up.
The
in my opinion, they played well.
I thought so too.
So whether people want to believe it, I'm just giving you my opinion. I felt like they played well enough to win.
And there's some art to a running back, and this is one thing like Amir Abdullah, and I bring Amir into this because he was the last one to really consistently do it. The ability to, even when things either break down or they're going as well as you could hope for, the ability to make guys miss, whether it's in the backfield or even when you are 15 yards past the line of scrimmage, separated the difference between maybe what we've seen in the years past with guys like Anthony Grant and Emmett Johnson. I think Emmett Johnson has that capability, Dante Dowdell, and maybe what we saw from Amir. Because, Matt Rule just said it. There were times today where Dante Dowdell, it almost looked like he was going to break one. And whether he has the breakaway speed, whatever.
Yeah.
But the ability to maybe get past a shoestring attempted tackle, Nebraska just doesn't have that right now, it feels like, out of the backfield.
Yeah, and that's a skill that you can develop pretty quickly, making guys miss. I'm a big fan of the dead leg, but then also setting up your blocks and knowing the whole offensive scheme to where you could really take advantage of it, and you don't need to really shake and bake, anticipate against the defender. And so we saw it last night, actually, Nick, to be honest with you, in a high school game between Lincoln Southeast and East, where Lincoln Southeast deposited body blow after body blow in the first half to allow Cash Butenbach to get off in the second half. And that's what Nebraska, I think, did, whereas you rammed Dante Dowdell in there at the beginning of the first quarter and a half. Here comes Emmett Johnson. He gets you, kind of like loosened up a little bit. Boom, here comes Dante Dowdell with obviously Ramir out. And I think the biggest thing as far as the running attack is I felt like we blocked pretty well as far as in the interior, exterior offensive line.
I would agree.
Tight end as well. Where we ran into a little bit of trouble is out on the edges. And then also matching the play calls, and this is just my opinion, with the personnel. And so once we get a little bit better in that, because now we actually play with the intent and the focus and energy to be the better offense that we've been all year, I think you might see some guys in there and you see some separation in the running back room, tight end room, H-back room to make this offense go. Because as much as we're excited about the defense, obviously coming out of this game, Marcus Satterfield, I guess I'll say Coach Rule, Coach Thomas, whoever the offensive guys are, we're as equally as excited, but also frustrated based on what we've seen there. Now we've seen some things out of our freshman quarterback. We know we can push the ball a little bit. We've seen a little bit more competitiveness out of Jamal Banks and Nair and the multitude of receivers. Now, as we go down the stretch here in November, let's see how we can be more efficient and explosive to take the pressure off our freshman quarterback. And Dylan did a really good job of keeping us at or above the chains or in front of the chains by getting those kind of secondary quarterback runs, because they haven't done it all year. Well, you got to expect UCLA, bye week, USC, they're going to prepare for it. So how do we, kind of work our way around it? Conventional run game in different formations, but then also improving our physicality to keep our freshman quarterback at or ahead of the chains to possibly be more effective in the pass game.
For the fans that might not have played football or at a high level or just the casual football fan right now, when you were playing, how do personnel decisions get made? Like, who goes out on a specific play? Is it coordinator has all the say and they control who they want out there? Or is that where the position coaches come into it? Because bringing it to Nebraska, like, is it solely on the shoulders of Marcus Satterfield, or does it trickle down to position coaches? Same with defense, right? Like, whether good or bad, because give credit where credit's due. When to put James Williams out there, or when to go with Cam Lenhart, or offensively when to have Alex Bullock in the game. Does that fall solely on the coordinators, or is that where it starts trickling down? How was it when you were playing? Like, who made the decisions on personnel?
I would say it goes back and forth. I mean, sometimes it's the offensive coordinator, sometimes it's the whatever position coach, and depends on the game, depends on the situation, depends on who's playing well, and obviously in the NFL, a lot of it has to deal with your salary cap and all that other stuff, and the timing of the season, whether you're in the playoff hunt, whether you're not. And so I think with Nebraska, I think that they have a good mix of running backs. I really, really do. I think Dante Dowdell does some positive things. I personally feel Emma Johnson does a lot more, good things. And then you have Ramir, who I think is a Swiss Army knife. And then you got Gabe Irvin coming back. And we've seen Quentin Ives as well.
Yeah.
Who I think
on
has
a kickoff return.
Who obviously had a little bit of a nervousness there, but I think he has out of all the five guys that I mentioned, including himself, has the biggest upside of any of them. But ultimately, when it comes down to the running game and the offense, we just got to get into a rhythm where we were throughout majority of the game, and then find a way to turn those 3-point field goals into 7. And it's usually, and I will tell you this, is usually a cause and effect. So if you sputter out on 3rd and 6 to 10, 6 to 9, well, that's generally set up by the lack of success on first down.
Yeah.
Now, I talked about it on the Foreman's 4. Again, brought to you by Fast Mike's Hauling. Win first down on offense and defense. That is imperative when you play against like teams. That means they have the same amount of athletes, star ranking, roster-wise. But then also it's really, really important when you go on the road, because it takes the momentum and the crowd noise out of it from an offensive standpoint. And then defensively, it puts way more pressure on Chip Kelly up in the press box to call plays, and he has no idea what the rhythm is or what the situation is down here on the field. So winning on first down, which is led by execution and efficiency on both sides of the ball, leads to victory. We took a step or 2 or maybe even 3 towards that. Now we can't afford, against a upstart UCLA team coming in here, to take any step back. We got to continue along in our practice, take a step forward, and get bowl eligible. Because I will say this, and I guess at 4:15 you can mark my words. When Nebraska beats UCLA, it will open the floodgates to more victories down that stretch there after that bye week. But more importantly, after I've said it, it has no bearing. They have to do it. They have to put the work in. Don't just be satisfied with being close. Be okay with it, but then also be inspired to be better, and then obviously come out with the victory, against any team. Ohio State, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. It doesn't matter anymore who Nebraska plays, because if Nebraska handles their business, they will be on the winning column. And hopefully today, and obviously I think Coach Rule said it in another presser or another quote where he said, this is the first time he felt that they expressed and showed championship DNA. And it is. And it's different because we've been close, right? Everybody talked about last time Nebraska was in Columbus, it was 33-31. They weren't close. You get what I'm saying, Nick?
The feeling was, you could just feel it. The vibe was
the feeling was a backdoor cover, a backdoor I'm close. This right here felt like Nebraska had a chance to win in a championship environment. Just came up a little bit short. They'll learn from it, and then hopefully the next time they'll be able to capitalize on it.
So Nebraska plays UCLA. They host the Bruins next Saturday.
What time?
November 2nd at 2:30 p.m.
Damn.
2:30 p.m. November 2nd. UCLA coming off of a bye week. They are off this weekend. They beat Rutgers in Piscataway last Saturday, 35-32. Rutgers, though, kind of fallen off the map, unfortunately, for the Scarlet Knights. They lost to USC late Friday night in California. So UCLA comes to Lincoln. It's Nebraska's first of their final 2 home games on the year before they have their second and final bye week of the season before heading out to USC on November 16th. But 2:30 kickoff next Saturday. That means we'll be on the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show at noon Central Time right here on 93.7 The Ticket. Jay, final words before we really turn the page and look towards the Bruins. They're 2-5 overall, 1-3 in the conference altogether. UCLA, probably a team Nebraska should be able to beat.
It should be able to beat, but you got to go out and earn it. I mean, it's great. This is a step forward. Maybe it's 2 steps forward as far as dealing with the embarrassment of what you essentially earned last week. Now let's earn a true victory and not a moral victory next week against UCLA. So the UCLA week is officially started when they touch down.
Yeah,
there is no.
Are we a watching film on the plane type of?
This is it. This is essentially. I want to flush this game out, get our frustration with the refs, the frustration with whether play call, offensive philosophy, or the strides that actually they've made strides in offense, defense, special teams. I want to get all that out in the forefront when we land. Enjoy I guess tonight. We'll see you whenever they get together, Sunday or Monday. And then now we're 100% all in on UCLA because we got to catch up because they were able to see this game this week. But I feel like we are more sharp as a knife to go and slice them up next week. So
there you go.
Yeah, I mean, this is a short but sweet. Definitely different feeling than last week, but definitely inspiring. And then we have to double down on it. That's the most important thing. There is no relaxed point right now. We got to turn it up here next week.
All right, Jay, 20 seconds.
20 seconds. Look, there is no moral victories. There are realistic victories. Nebraska had a chance to win. It's the first time that actually, if you are a true fan, they actually showed championship DNA. For Jay Foreman, Nick Sainer, and all our sponsors, we appreciate you, the Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Return over to Austin Orman. DP will be calling in from Columbus. We'll holler at you next week after a victory.
Mindle Footwear is your solution against sore feet, blisters, and poor footing. Don't just take our word for it. Take it from Sip, a city's never had a pair of boots more comfortable. You won't find Mindle Footwear in any store sold exclusively at mindleusa.com right out of Sidney, Nebraska. They're so confident you will enjoy the comfort their boots offer. If they don't work out for you, they'll cover the shipping to return them. Use code THETICKET for free shipping because your feet deserve a treat too. Mindle boots, just try them on.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program. Hope is only a conversation away when you choose to share your talent, time, and heart with a child. Together, you can build a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future, 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
With a wide variety of menu options, including the best prime and Wagyu steaks in Lincoln, if you haven't been to Tavern 180, you're missing out. Try any of their steak options paired with one of their well-known martinis, and this will soon become your favorite date night spot. Call your friends for a casual get-together where steak, shrimp, chicken, and tasty cocktails await your arrival. Tavern 180, located next door to Tanner's at 30th and Yankee Hill.
I can't believe I just scratched that card. Find my insurance card.
Dude, what do you have in this glove box? Ew, are these socks dirty?
Oh, forget about the socks. I need my insurance card.
Just pull it up on the State Farm mobile app.
But I can do that? Oh, hey, I can do that.
Yep, it's called service.
I can file a claim on here too?
Yeah, it's called service.
Whoa, I can call my agent too?
It's called service.
Call your local State Farm agent, Vinny Kreekak, at 402-474-1173.
Lincoln Federal Savings Bank, personal banking like you remember.
Home. It's more than a place, it's a feeling. This is Eric Bertrand with Lincoln Federal Savings Bank. If you're looking for a place to call home, call me. Let's review your financing options and get you into the home of your dreams. Proudly serving Husker fans.
Personal banking like you remember.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended.
Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
Once in a lifetime event. You miss it, it's gone forever. It's Schaefer's 78th anniversary extravaganza.
Maybe a little dramatic, but you get the point. It's Schaefer's 78th anniversary. And we're delivering the savings on LG appliances with huge $1,000 rebates. Save on your whole kitchen, including the new My Color fridge, and get free delivery on your qualified LG purchase. Hurry in for the savings during Schaefer's 78th anniversary event.
At Jimmy John's, we don't make sandwiches. We make the sandwich of sandwiches. We use fresh veggies because we don't hate salads. We just feel bad for them. We make our sandwiches exactly how you want because you're the one who's eating it. And we bake bread all day, every day because stale bread isn't bread. It's croutons. Sandwich history is written by the victors. Good thing we have legible handwriting. Jimmy John's, the sandwich of sandwiches. Order pickup or delivery on the app.
At Anderson Ford, we offer a 5-day return or exchange policy so you can make sure the vehicle you choose is the best vehicle for you. No pressure. Right now, take over $11,000 off a 2024 Ford F-150. Experience better at Anderson Ford. Stock number 1004296, MSRP of $66,645. Must finance with Ford Motor Company and have a qualifying trade and approved credit. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 11/13/24. See delivery details.
Ready to hit the road in style? Liberty First Credit Union is revving up your ride with unbeatable auto loan specials. Cruise away with rates as low as 4.79% APR for 48 months on a 2020 or newer vehicle. Need a longer term? No worries. They've got you covered with 4.89 APR for 60 months and 4.99 APR for 72 months. Hurry, these rates are cruising fast, so don't get left in the dust. Visit libertyfirstcu.com. Credit factors apply. Rates, terms, and conditions subject to change.
It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier Kawasaki dealership. Score big on Kawasaki's most dependable side-by-side, the Mule Pro, built to take on your most demanding days. Rule the streets on an Indian motorcycle with customer cash and trade-in credits up to $2,000 during the month of October. On or off-road, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered with large selection of motorcycles and side-by-sides in stock at their new 27th and I-80 location. Stop by every Saturday for their Husker tailgate with free food, drinks, and games.
Jay Foreman Postgame Show. Sponsored by Anderson Ford, Tanner's Bar and Grill, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Tavern 180, Vinnie Kreekak of State Farm Insurance, and Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical.
Welcome back to Post Game. Jay and Nick are done. That means it's me and Chancellor, Austin Norman, Chancellor Brewington with you here till right about 5 o'clock or so. Nebraska falls 21-17 on the road at Ohio State. Big thanks to all those wonderful sponsors you just heard Bob mention. Anderson of Lincoln, Vinnie Kreekak of State Farm, Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Action Tavern 180, and Tanner's. Thanks to Starter Heyman Jewelers for sponsoring our video streams and our text line, and Aloe for Channel 961 as well. Business handled for us. Nebraska doesn't quite handle the business today. Chancellor, a 4-point loss on the road to the number 4 Buckeyes. Your first gut reaction to this one?
First gut reaction, the boys fought. I mean, you're a 3.5% favorite, 22-point underdog, 25-point underdog, I believe, and you come out and fight. I mean, you had opportunities to go down into the shell, down 14-3, and you just rally. The boys rallied. The boys fought. Defensive performance. I got to shout out Jamari Butler. I got to shout out our kicker Hole. I mean the whole Nebraska's fan base, to start these 4 games off this year we were all like, man, I don't know if we want to kick no more. And he goes 3 for 3 today. I would say the main reason why we were in these games. Again, defense played great. Malcolm Hartzog would have picked. But the offense still had some struggles, and it's frustrating. It really is frustrating. You look at the stat line just offensively, and it's 152 yards passing and 121 rushing yards. And when you really look at the rushing yards, 30 of them, maybe even more because they count some of the sacks as rushing yards. Our Dylan Raiola just escaping in man-to-man, guys aren't getting open. It's frustrating, man. It's frustrating because being a former player, I'm like, the guys fought. The guys fought. It was enough to win. It was enough to win, but evidently it wasn't. At the end of the day, I don't play the blame game. I don't, Austin. And I think I know you're the same way. I know there's, even with the play calling, you can still execute better. You can still make that pass to Banks, right? You can still do some things. You can still, maybe block up a little bit better on the Jalen Lloyd little jet pass, 3rd and goal, whatever. You can block a little bit better on the 4th and goal. But it's frustrating because it's week in and week out. If we start the game off and we call 3 screens that don't make any sense. Me and you are watching the games together in the back, and it's just like it just doesn't make sense. You watch Ohio State's offense, you watch Indiana's last week, and there's some things that we're not capable of doing yet. I think we need another year to get some more personnel pieces, but there's a lot of things that we can take from these offenses, right? Obviously, we have our own philosophy and play calling style, but there's little things. I mean, you just watch our offense. We just line up and just run something. No motions, no this to start the game off first and second quarter. It's like, where's the catching the defense in a different formation, motioning, yo-yo in the safety, something, right? And it's just frustrating because it seems like there's a lack of creativity, like especially in the passing game. Like you want to see getting matchup problems with Fedoni on safeties, linebackers, whatever it is. You want to see Jalen Lloyd and Ja'Cory Barney stretching the field. You want to see the big guys, winning these 50-50 balls, which I would say they did a decent job today. A lot got called back, but those are my first initial thoughts. I thought the boys fought hard. It was definitely enough to win. Obviously, you got to execute a lot better.
I know Husker fans, former players like yourself, were hoping that you would see fight from Nebraska, hoping you would see a response. In your heart, in your mind, did you believe you would see the fight that you saw today?
Yeah, well, and I'm sick of the fight. I'm sick of it because I was on the 3-9 team when every
World's
week
best 3-9.
I'm sure you were, 2021, you guys were on here talking about it. The boys fought, right? The boys fought. We just couldn't get it done, right? In Michigan, the boys fought, right? Michigan State, the boys fought. Just one mistake here, right? You can go to Ohio State 21, the boys fought. Like, you can keep going down the line and saying the boys fought. At the end of the day, there needs to be better execution. And from this standpoint, it wasn't so much of, man, we turned the ball over like we have in years past. It was more so of a thing like, wait, why are we, in my opinion, why are we running this? And that was my personal take. And I'm not blaming the finger, but I will say this offense as a collective group can be more productive than what they're showing. At some point, you have to identify who's going to be your running back. Even Ohio State, they do a 2-back thing, but you know who the guy is.
It's Henderson, the guy that's been there for years.
Hey, okay, we watched the 2-back system in Indiana. We know it's not Tyson, it's Ellison. We know who it is. You have to establish it. And for me, it's a thing where I think Emmett has proved it. In my opinion. We saw Dante, with some drops and stuff like that. Emmett can pick up blitzes. He can catch football at the backfield. He's a smart guy. He runs forward. He can make guys miss in the open field. You got to give him more chances. Got to give him more touches. I'm looking at it. He had 8 touches today. And
8 rushes, but also 4 receptions.
Right. So, so it's like, he's a versatile guy. Ramir Johnson goes down. You're thinking the run game is going to, maybe someone creep up there in the 20 carry. One guy gets 15. Doesn't happen. I'm just bummed out for the guys that, we couldn't get it done on the offensive side.
17 points not going to be enough to get it done against a high-powered offense like Ohio State, but one that Nebraska held in check. The screenplays have been a big topic of conversation while we're there. Let's get your take. Why was the screen game not effective, and why was it not the play and maybe Nebraska should have gone to?
Yeah, so I think to start off with, there was one particular screen which I could have a whole field day saying why this was a bad call, but it was either 3x1 or empty. All I know is there was to the 3 receiver side. At 3, you had Ja'Cory Barney, and at 2, I believe it was Jalen Lloyd, and then I think there was maybe a running back or a bigger receiver on the outside. What ended up happening is you had Ja'Cory Barney at 3, had a
inside of the slot,
had a safety or a nickel, whoever it was, walk down, a safety walk down on him, and you had him to go block a safety or a nickel, right? Mm-hmm. So, he's 65 pounds, 75 pounds, soaking wet, right? Mm-hmm. Why would we put him in that situation? And then, you fast forward to, Banks being in situations, throwing the ball on the perimeter, him not blocking, already having that in your brain, and then you call a screen to his side. It's just, and honestly, it's just the screen call in general. I don't think I was seeing enough of the game. Like, man, like a screen would be perfect here. Catch him in this, and this. I kind of get the philosophy, catch him in a blitz and stuff like that. But when you're not blocking on the perimeter well, I don't think that's the greatest idea.
Especially if you're not going to run that screen up the middle. They tried one and it got blown up because I think it was Bryce Benhart missed a block on one of them there. So maybe the types of screens weren't right. But you're right. Nebraska kept banging its head against that wall with nothing to show for it. And obviously, when you lose a close game or you lose it all or you don't perform up to standards, it's on players and it's on coaches.
Yeah.
When you look at the screen game and the lack of production, do you weight coach responsibility or player responsibility more against Ohio State?
So for as far as Nebraska,
yes,
I would say it's tough. I would say it's a 60-40 split. I would say to put them in that situation, that's not their strong suit. But although it's like you don't know what they practice throughout the week and you don't know the execution, so it's always hard. Like you're behind the curtain, you don't really know what's going on, but all you see is the opening act, right? And you're like, okay, like judge it off that. It's tough, but at the end of the day, players do have to execute, and you gotta take pride in that. And that's something as a player you just got to figure out. And was it week 8, week 9? Coming into week 9 coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to these things need to be figured out already. And we're still trying to figure out. I mean, we got excited over a wham trap play that hit. Like we're in week 8 and we're getting excited that we had 2 wham trap plays that hit. We wham trapped on the 3 tech to the field, like and we hit it for like 15, and it was like we scored 20 points, right? And so like it's frustrating because like why does it take week 8 to find this?
Yeah,
why can't this be established in week 3 of fall camp? And so that I guess that's where like the frustrating part is,
or even week 3 of the regular season,
right?
You get through your non-cons, you get live reps for you, like, hey, we're good at this, we can do this consistently, but it took you another month and a half to get there.
Exactly. And it's tough because we talk about, okay, the wham trap, that's a very exotic play. You can't do that every time. You can't do that. You can maybe run that 3 or 4 times a game, right? And then you don't know who's going to get that rep though. You don't know if Dante or Emmett's going to get that rep. So it's just kind of tough with this back rotation.
Do you see a true rotation at running back, or does it just kind of feel like they're guessing to see who's going to get hot and they hope someone hits?
It's almost, I don't even know if they know. That's where it's frustrating because usually, I've been on it. Okay, for example, I'll give the people a scenario. I was in a position group where my senior year, Travis Vokalek would always get the first drive, and Coach Beck would say, "You will always get the second drive, and you'll be the first 12 personnel tight end." Okay, so if we were in 12 personnel to start the game, okay, I'm out there, right? If I'm not in 12 personnel to start the game, I know I'm getting second drive, right? So guess what? I'm geared up now. I know the second 10, right?
You know your role.
I know my role.
Study.
I know what study. And guess what? The OC now, knows a little bit more. Okay, Chance is really good at this, and this. We can open up playbook like this, yada, yada, yada. And so everyone's on the same page, right? And so it helps, obviously, whatever struggles, it helps the offense just flow a little bit more. And as a player, it's like, okay, I have confidence in my role. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know what is expected of me first, because that's a big thing. What's expected of me, because at the end of the day, if you're just like on the sideline, I've been one of these players where you're on the sideline, like waiting to get in, and all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm in. Okay, don't mess up. Right. And
not
so,
a healthy mindset.
Yeah, not a healthy mindset. So you want players to build confidence, like, hey, these are 2 backs. We got 3 backs, and this is how we use them. Everyone knows, because at the end of the day, how Indiana used their backs. How Ohio State used their backs. How every good team, how every good team in the country uses their running backs. If you just cut on the tape, it's not a secret, right? You're not going to catch anyone off guard, right? But trying to switch them in, right?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's only going to mess with the player's mind and their performance.
Without being in the running back room specifically, I don't know what EJ Barthel's messaging is.
Right.
I don't know if he's saying this is your role, this is your role, and we just can't see a pattern. But you've played enough football, enough football that if you can't pick out a pattern, I feel confident saying there's probably not a pattern to it. And we don't hear from position coaches during the year. We hear from Matt Rule. We hear from the coordinators. It's a group effort, right? Ultimately, Matt Rule is responsible for it. Ultimately, it's then Marcus Satterfield under him, and then EJ Barthel under Marcus Satterfield there. What I can imagine EJ Barthel saying is, well, someone hasn't run away with the job, right? It's neck and neck.
Right.
They're close. They haven't separated, which might be true, but that's why you're the adult. That's why you're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, is if it's close, it is on you to make the decision. It is on you to instill confidence and figure out how to get that room to play the best, right? Dante Dowdell and Emmett Johnson might grade out similarly, do some things well, do other things poorly relative to one another. But if they're neck and neck, to me, it's on the coach to make that decision for the players. If the players aren't separating themselves within practice or within game reps, it's on the coach to read body language, to read chemistry, to read the little things and say, you guys are close. Here are the little things that make me able to make this tough decision. By not having the play-in pattern in rotation, it kind of feels like EJ Barthel is copping out and putting it on the player, saying, well, they're not earning it. It's out of my hands.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing because I would approach it. Let's say, because we don't know, right? We don't know. We're speculating, of course. We're not inside the locker room. We're not inside the position meetings, but I've been in some, right? And so I know how it goes a little bit. I'll say this. I don't know if it's Coach EJ who's making decisions. It could be Satterfield, right?
It's Camille. It's
right. And so I don't know, but I'll say this, and we can both agree on this. You got to look at it as who gives us the best advantage.
Yep.
Point blank. If nobody has declared, let's say nobody has declared, it's even, Dante this, and then Emmett this, whatever. Who gives us the best advantage? Up to this point, not the potential, right? Up to this point, who gives us the best advantage? Film, stats, whatever you want to go. I prefer film. Let's look at the film and say who gives us best advantage. Okay. In my opinion, this is Emmett. All right. We got to give Emmett 20 carries this week.
It may be EJ Barthel saying that Marcus Satterfield's overruling him. And maybe Matt Rule's overruling that.
Right.
We don't know. But again, this is why they're adults. They're paid a lot of money to make these tough decisions.
A lot of money.
And we think that, this is a tight-knit staff that's worked together before, that know each other. If they're not comfortable challenging one another or speaking up when, let's just hypothetical, we don't know this, but let's say EJ Barthel has been vocal and wanting Emmett Johnson to take over as starter reps. Well, guess what? He's still not starting, and touches were pretty even. 14 carries for Dowdell without a catch, 8 carries, and then 4 catches for Emmett Johnson. That's pretty even workloads. But if EJ Barthel is convicted in how he grades his running backs, that Emmett Johnson and Dante Dowdell were close, but Emmett Johnson's doing the little things, maybe off the field a little bit better, he should be the guy. If you like your job, if you love your job, if you want to keep your job, stand on the table.
Right.
Pound the table. Say, okay, I might be under you, but we're on the same staff. This is collaborative. You might be hearing what I have to say, but you're not listening to what I have to say, right? At some point, the position coach has to get on the table for his guys.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that reflects you.
Yes.
That reflects you, I remember in my days, anytime we would be on a list, anytime, we would mess up MAs, loafs, whatever it was, missed assignments for people and MAs, it reflected bad on the coach. The coach didn't want to look bad, right? And so, when we go out there and lay an egg or we play bad and we're in the papers, right? Literally, we would talk about it. If you're in the papers, it looks bad on me. right? And so guess what's in the papers right now is we can't run the football, right? So guess who that looks bad on? Just naturally.
Running back coach and O-line coach.
Exactly. So you got to fix it. And I know they got the personnel to do it. And so that's what makes me frustrated for the guys out there. I mean, and the guys are working hard. It's not like a thing where we're seeing guys just give up and quit. We just need them to be put in the best situations to win.
To be fair, Nebraska did rush for on the game. You'll see most commonly 3.7 yards per carry. Sack adjusted, it was 4.7.
Okay.
Obviously factors in sacks there, and you do get a 38-yard run from Dylan Raiola, but that counts, right? That was flow of the game. It was a good read by Dylan to take off. He did that a couple of times. So yeah, it's cheap yardage, but it's also exploiting maybe a hole in Ohio State's defense, right? They said they didn't have to spy him because he's not a threat to run. Well, guess what? He made him pay.
Right.
That's a football player making a play, so it counts. Same with the sweeps that they tried to run, the one Jalen Lloyd, or when they got Ja'Cory Barney in motion, right? Just because it's not a running back doesn't mean it's not the run game, right? Nebraska's maybe better at those sweeps than it is traditional run game. But I also think when it comes to the running back room, the numbers would look better if they could make that last defender miss.
Yeah, that has been a problem
all year.
You got it. Yeah.
Week 8.
And I wonder, and I don't want this to sound like a cop-out. I really don't. I wonder if rhythm plays a factor in that. Is that like you finally get your run, right? You finally get your run. I got to get as much as I can, right? And just fall forward.
Yeah.
Instead of like playing aggressive and knowing like, man, I'm the guy. Like I'm gonna make someone miss and do my thing. And I've talked to running backs, and I know one thing about it, and receivers too, but especially running backs, is rhythm. Rhythm is a big thing. So, I hope they can find rhythm and find some harmony in that running back room.
Speaking of rhythm, Dylan Raiola, 21 of 32 overall, just threw that one interception there at the end of the game. Ohio State brought pressure a few times early, but I think Matt Rule said it in postgame, and you and I noted it as well. I think the TV broadcast did too. You saw him grow and adjust throughout the game, right? Nebraska gets down in the red zone. He finds Isaiah Nair on the near touchdown, right, when Ohio State brings the same or at least a very similar blitz. It wasn't perfect. Again, only 150 yards through the air, completed about 2/3 of his passes, and an interception that I don't know what he was looking at. Maybe you can explain on that last interception what the read was and why the throw went where it was. But all in all, it wasn't an A-plus game from Dylan Raiola, but he bounced back from Rutgers. He looked better than that, and he looked better than he did against Indiana, too. I think this was a step in the right direction for 15.
Yeah, I do, too. I think there was moments where he got, I would say, quote-unquote confidence. I don't think he ever lost it, but got the feel a little bit more. Because last game, that doesn't leave a good taste in your mouth, especially, for him, but also offense. And the first half, it wasn't pretty. But I would say that third quarter, they put two really good drives together. And I think that's that when you look at that drive, and specifically the one where he's catches I believe it was a safety blitz. He blitzes straight down the A gap. And he floats into pressure and throws a slant to Nair. He's kneeled down at the goal line, but just like the productivity and getting the ball out and identifying the blitz and floating into the blitz and squaring your feet off and making throw, exotic arm angle. Only Dylan Raiola can make that throw, right? In the Big Ten. It's special. And so you want to keep seeing him be put in those situations. And it's frustrating, I will say, to watch games and it seems like every time we drop back to pass, it's a intermediate pass or it's a deep shot. It's from this range to 10 to 25 yards, right? We have no type of quick game. And if you see all the offenses across the nation, especially Ohio State, especially Indiana, teams that excel in third and short situations, third and mid situations, second and eights. They do a really good job in quick game, especially in the medium pass game. And I think that's one thing that will help Dylan Raiola out. But I think it was a step in the right direction for him. The pick at the end, I think he was expecting Nair to bend it in front of the safety. I understand you try to be aggressive, try to make something happen. It just wasn't there. I believe backside you had Ja'Cory running the seam. You had a sponge corner. He boxed that up. And then I believe there's some type of dig or some type of underneath route that a backer carried carried, and it was all boxed up. So it looked like that was like the only place. And you're trying to be aggressive, you're trying to win the game. I understand it. But these type of games are really good for him because he'll be able to look back and say, man, I played a 17-21 game against Ohio State. They were number 4 in the country, 100,000. I went down and drove on them, right? We just couldn't finish. And just be able to have that in the back of your mind or in your arsenal. So when you go forward, you get in a tight game as UCLA, like, man, this is nothing, right? So I think he took a step in the right direction. Definitely need to help him out in a lot of different scenarios, and utilize his skill set a little bit more. I think, having a little bit more movement on the offense, a little bit more short game, allowing Ja'Cory and some of the guys to catch balls and get some yak, right? You don't got to make it all in one play. And that's kind of what's frustrating. It seemed like, every play is like a goal bar. Every play is, a post, or we're looking for a deep shot every time. We can throw a 5-yard hitch out there and let Ja'Cory Barney make a guy miss or
stay on schedule at the very least.
Exactly. 5-4-2. Exactly.
And Nebraska did have that one play. They brought Jalen Lloyd in motion from left to right. It was on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. Wonderful play. I mean, I think it was Jalen Lloyd or Ja'Cory Barney, one of the two, would have had 5-10 yards at least of steam to make someone miss. Whistled back by a false start.
Yeah.
So that was a killer. When we look at Dylan Raiola too, he's said it and he needs to own this. He's overthrown some guys.
Yeah.
Missed Fedoni against Northern Iowa, missed Lindenmeyer against Illinois, and then missed Jamal Banks for what would have been an absolute walk-in touchdown. So you see it, I see it, all the Marcus Satterfield text, not good enough.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily a case of, Marcus Satterfield gets lucky every so often, right? Like, he needs to be better. He needs to be more consistent.
Right.
But every so often, he does dial up a good play. And that's where Dylan Raiola can't afford to miss, right? That deep ball is just so loopy. Is that on purpose? Is that just his throwing style? Is that he's used to throwing to one type of receiver and he has a different type of receiver? What's maybe the disconnect between Dylan Raiola and his receivers when they get down the field?
Yeah, I guess I have a theory. I would say my theory is that he's not put in the best scenarios all the time, right? All of a sudden you drop back, it's 2nd down, you go for a screen, you run the ball on 1st down, screen 2nd down, all of a sudden it's 3rd and 11, and now you got to make a 12-yard completion or at least
against the top 5 defense,
right? So, and I felt like that was continuously happening throughout the first drive. And he was making the most of it. I mean, some of them he converted, some of them he didn't. I believe we only converted like 2 or 3 3rd downs,
which was not good. I mean, Nebraska on the day, Chancellor, was 5 of 16 on 3rd down, 0 of 1 on 4th down, which is abysmal. But they held Ohio State to 1 of 10,
man,
and then 1 of 2 on 4th down. Of course, the conversion ended up being a killer, but still, you hold Ohio State to 1 of 10 on 3rd down. So your 5 of 16 looks relatively acceptable given the game context.
Right. And you gotta win that. If you hold Ohio State 1 to 10, oh my gosh, you gotta win that. And I guess I'll say the Dylan Raiola point like this with the wobbly ball, whatever. I'll say it like this. I think he's put in a lot of scenarios where it's not the concept, I would say, isn't the best. Okay. And it could be a lot better. It could help him out a lot more, take a lot of pressure off of him where he doesn't have to, make a whole science read and, this and this. Like, it's something easy. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. And we see that across the country. Like, if you watch like Miami with Cam Ward, like they have athletes, of course, but like you could adopt some of these things because you got this type of quarterback. Shador Sanders, man, they're not taking shots every play, right? They're letting their playmakers make plays, right? And so when all of a sudden it's 2nd down and you call a money play, you get a rub for who was it, Banks? You get a rub for Banks. The guy commits to it. Number 1 receiver rubs for him. Banks is wide open, and now all of a sudden it's time to make the throw, right? And I didn't need to make the throw all day today because it's been tight covers, this and this. I finally need to make the throw, and I miss it. And now it kind of is like, well, but he made this throw. He made the other throw to Banks, right? He made the other throw, and it's tough. And I would say maybe he needs to, not put as much touch on it. I don't know. I'm not a quarterback. I've never played quarterback.
Is that trying to place the ball instead of throw the ball?
Maybe.
You're a baseball guy, right? You know the difference between I have to hit my spot. You get so fine, you overthink it and you miss, rather than just, hey, I've made this throw in practice. I've made this throw in walkthrough. I just have to throw it.
Yeah, I don't know if it might be that. It might be late game, maybe not setting your feet, your shoulders high, whatever it is. Maybe it's just a lackadaisicalness and technique. Because that happens over time, especially with a guy who is so exotic in his form. So elusive with his arm angle and things like that. And so, yeah, I can't really put my finger on the arm angle, but I definitely know that we need to connect on those moving forward.
He even missed Ja'Cory Barney in the far back corner of the end zone on one.
Yeah.
Barney came open late. It wasn't by much, but again, and that's maybe the more disappointing part about some of these is that they're fingertips, right?
Yeah.
They're right there. So if the receiver takes one more step up the field instead of inside or outside, or if Dylan takes one less Wheatie for breakfast, whatever it is, it's right there. Of course, Nebraska made up for it down the line on the one, at least to Barney that he overshot. That was followed by that completion to Isaiah Nair before the Dante Dowdell touchdown. Let's talk a little bit of defense here. We got just a couple minutes left. We'll hand things over at 5:00 here. Malcolm Hartzog, interception, all the way down to the 7-yard line. And they hold Ohio State under 300 yards, under 75 rushing yards. But Will Howard was a perfect 10 of 10 in the first half. That was maybe a negative. And then a couple busts lead to touchdowns. So big picture, 21 points, good. But the busts were bad and would ultimately cost the game.
Yeah. I mean, the one to Gifford, I would say, was definitely the worst.
Yeah.
You want to have those back. It was a flashback. Me and you were talking about it, previously. We were talking about, it looked like the Michigan State one and a little bit of the Michigan one too.
Yeah.
Whether you're in quarters, whether you're in cover 3 or you're in, cover 2, Tampa, whatever it is, he kind of just bit on the play action, got beat down the middle. You can't let that happen. And then obviously there's to start the game off, the first touchdown. They're in quarters. They just run a quarters beater. This most simplest quarters beater of all time. We call it pin. The P stands for post. The IN stands for in route. So you got to post and then in route. The safety on the play side, just drives on the in, throw a post right over top. It's pretty simple. Those type of things happen in football. You come to the sideline and say, what they run? And you say pin, and you're like, okay, I understand, right? But the one to Gifford, you got to fix that one. That was the one that hurts, but you still hold on 21 points. Nobody this year, I don't think is going to play that well against Ohio State defensively in the regular season. I don't think Indiana is going to. I think that's going to be a shootout game. Defense goes improve some against Ohio State this weekend. And I thought it was awesome. Definitely want to capitalize, but shout out to the defense.
I'm going to lay this take on you. I don't know if I've ever been on air with you and I've given this, but I do think it bears repeating. And I'm going to caveat and preface all of this with 17 points is not enough.
Yeah.
17 points has never been enough to beat Ohio State. It's not how it works. The offense missed more opportunities than the defense did. Absolutely. But this is where I'm going to twist the conversation a little bit. If defense is still the strength of the team, if this defense wants to be taken seriously as a great defense, as an elite defense, not just a pretty good defense,
right?
I think I'm fair in saying that I am disappointed by how easily Ohio State marched the ball down the field right after the offense took the lead. That's Ohio State. It's a high-powered offense that makes plays. But Chancellor, that was a moment where the defense didn't step up, right? It did after the shanked punt. It did on a couple of short fields. It took advantage of the overthrow by Will Howard, and I don't want to take anything away from a good to really good performance. But I cannot get on board with calling this a great defense or an elite defense when it doesn't step up in that moment. If you want to be the strength of the team, you find a way to make a play. I don't know if it was because they didn't bring as much pressure, guys didn't get home, there's a miscommunication, whatever it is. After Nebraska took that lead, the defense needed to stop. Even if Ohio State gets 5-6 plays off and they kick a field goal, that's fine. That's maybe a little bit different. But to let him go right down the field, like 8 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown, is the easiest it looked all day. And for a game that we deservedly are going to give the defense so much kudos, so much credit, so many flowers, I still think I'm not entirely wrong to be disappointed by not stepping up in one of the most pivotal moments of the game.
Yeah, it's tough because 1 out of 10 for third down?
Yeah.
So if you was, one of those, that one was probably that drive, right? Or so you would have been, they would have held them to 0 for 10 that last drive?
0 for 9 and then the fourth.
0 for 9.
Yeah.
Oh my
so
gosh.
This comes. I'm going to assume there's a third down on that drive.
Right.
I don't have the summary in front of me right now.
I'm pretty sure. And so it's tough. It is tough. You go down and score. You're Nebraska. You go down and score. You held Ohio State, one of the best offenses in the country, to 14 points up to that point. But you're right. You do got to find a way. Especially you got to pick up your offense. You're struggling.
There was actually no third down on that drive. I guess maybe the most important play of that drive was first play out of the gate, give up the 37-yarder.
Yeah.
Right. First play. Again, we know Ohio State's a good offense. They're going to get theirs. But a great defense, to me, finds a way to stop the bleeding there. They already moved the ball into your territory. You stop it. And to be fair, Nebraska forces that fourth down. Where Ohio State comes with that quick flip over to Ibuka. They go to their trusted guy. They convert. I get it. Ohio State made some plays. But that's the difference between a team that's contending for the college football playoff and the Big Ten championship and where Nebraska's at right now.
Yeah, I think you said it best. There's a gap. There's a gap in, I would just say, like, execution, right? When it really matters most, right? Because, obviously those third downs matter, but this is the one that matters. That drive at the end of the game. Defense is going to feel that. They're going to feel that. They feel it right now. That's the last thing you feel. You don't really feel the Malcolm Hartzog pick or the third down stop or the fourth down stop. That's what the last thing you feel is that. And, when you go in the film room, they're going to be, slapping themselves, figuratively, but like, because, they're going to watch and be like, man, we had an opportunity to really close this out and to pick up our offense, knowing the offense is struggling, right? That's not, a secret around the facility or a secret around that team or on our coaching staff that, this offense is struggling. And, defense did a great job putting them in positions. But even if the offense doesn't capitalize, you still got to keep putting them in positions to win, because at the end of the day, you are a team.
I know you and Mike, you're going to get plenty more into this when we get to Locker Room on Monday. But just to wrap us up, your final thoughts headed into UCLA week. Nebraska 5-3 entering November again.
Yeah, they're coming home, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you're coming home. It would be a great time to get a bowl win, and show the growth. Show the growth, because I think we grew from this game. Go beat on the little brother, UCLA. Go do what you should have done to Purdue.
When you get another bye week after, empty the tank.
Exactly, empty the tank, and then you got to go travel, to the west side, to Cali, and go play SC. So, refuel, re-energize, watch the tape, wipe it out. And then you got to get your hair on fire, because at the end of the day, this Big Ten is weird right now. Teams are losing, teams are winning, and you can't be one to lose right now.
Get another one. Get the one after that. We will certainly see. He's Chancellor Brewington. I'm Austin Norman. Thank you for sticking with us. Sorry we didn't get to all your texts. We see them. I'll get to some of these as I'm wrapping things up here as well. So thank you for staying engaged with us all day long, from pregame here all the way through postgame. Thanks to Anderson of Lincoln, Vinny Kreekak with State Farm, LA Power Sports of Lincoln, Action Tavern 180, and Tanner's for their sponsorship of Postgame. For Chancellor, I'm Austin. We are done for the day, but catch us Ticket Weekends tomorrow. Chance and I are back on Monday, Locker Room 1 to 2, on the block from 2 to 4. We'll talk to you then.